Traveling the Vortex.
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.
We joined the Doctor as he travels the vortex and landed at episode number 40. And time has never laid a gloved hand on us.
Nor will it.
Nor will it. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
We all went on holiday this week. How was your guys' holiday?
We did, yeah. Long. Just got back today. Left on Thursday.
You two took
got
the
back
longest
today.
holidays.
Yeah.
I wish you could see
And
Glenn
the
right
furthest.
now. He's got his hair's a little frazzled. His eyes are a little glazed. He had a
Little
4-hour drive
bloodshot.
today.
I did a 4-hour drive today with 3 kids. 2 of my own and my sister's.
And Holly.
In Holly, yeah.
Not Holly from Wisconsin.
No. My Holly. And, no, we had a lot of fun. Went to Albuquerque. Left last week and got back today. So.
Albuquerque,
New Mexico.
New Mexico.
That's the only Albuquerque there, isn't there? Is there another one?
I don't
Overseas
think so.
listeners may not know that.
Oh, yeah. Albuquerque, New Mexico. Home of the Sage Desert, Sandia Mountains.
Did you
and,
bring me a
the
tumbleweed?
world's longest... no, I didn't.
I needed a tumbleweed.
The world's longest suspended tram,
Really? I
which we
didn't know that
rode
was
to
there.
the top of the Sandia Peak. Yeah. And the record-breaking now Balloon Fiesta, which is still going on this week. But lots of fun, lots of cool things, and we went to a place called Old Town and bought a bunch of touristy trap souvenirs, yeah. And turquoise rings, and that kind of stuff.
I saw you stopped on the way back to
That was my highlight.
Billy the Kid.
Yeah, we stopped by the grave of Billy. Billy the Kid's always been one of my favorite outlaws.
Oh, is that
Old
what that?
West
I couldn't
outlaws.
tell whose grave that
Yeah.
was.
So on the way out, we were driving and we saw a sign that said "Visit Historic Fort Sumter" in the Billy the Kid Museum, and I was like, "Oh, well, that's awesome! We got to do that." So we pulled off the side of the road and found out it was a 45-mile drive. So it would have been an hour and a half round trip while we were on our itinerary. So my dad said, "Well, why don't we stop on the way back?" Because we were traveling with my parents, my sister, her 2 kids, Holly and I, and our 2 kids. And he said, "Well, we do that on the way back. We'll just plan for it." So all right. So on the way back, we ducked off I-40 and went down to historic Fort Sumner and found the grave. And the thing is, on the way, I was doing some research because I had my phone with me and the limited internet that I had, and I was trying to figure out where it was and everything. And come to find out, there are 2 graves there. And this is a perfect time to tell anybody that's going to go visit the grave of Billy the Kid. There are 2. One is fake and one is real.
Really?
Yeah. As you drive into town, into Fort Sumner, which is what is now Fort Sumner proper, the town, downtown in the main part, which is not a very big town, it's very, very small, but downtown in the main part, there's a place called the Billy the Kid Museum. Come to find out, there's actually a gun there, I think, that was used by Billy the Kid, and one other object that I don't remember what it was, and that's it. And then you go into this back room, and there's a headstone and these 2 graves, and right above it, it says replica. And apparently, we didn't even go here because I was reading about this. Apparently, this family set it up in the 1950s, and they set it up because Sumner, and it's right off of the highway that you come in. And they set this up, and there's actually it is a museum. They have a lot of old stuff in there that you can look at. It's probably very interesting, but it's not the gravesite of Billy Kid, which is what I was going for, historic Fort Sumner. So if you go into there, then you don't get the actual treatment of where Billy the Kid is. You actually have to drive 3 miles east of town, turn on Billy the Kid Drive, drive 3 miles south from there to find the actual old historic Fort Sumner. And it's the whole old historic Fort Sumner Museum and real grave of Billy the Kid. And the graveyard, which you don't even have to pay to go back into the graveyard, is an old cemetery, and there's only about 5 graves back there all spread out, because at one point all these grave markers washed away, and only the ones that were cement are still actually there. And in this cage in the center of the cemetery are these 3 cement mounds and a marker that says pals, and it has the name of the 2 men buried with him that were childhood friends. Well, one was childhood friend, but there were 2 guys in his gang. And then another gravestone in front of that says Billy the Kid that's in shackles.
Really?
The reason behind that is because that grave marker's been stole twice and recovered once in Texas and once in California. So they finally encased this thing in a cage and put shackles on the gravestone so it can't be stolen again. And then come to find out later, the spot where these gravestones aren't necessarily where Billy and the 2 guys are buried. Because the original, they're in this cemetery somewhere, which is definitely marked by the fence.
They moved them to make room for the Billy the Kid highway that was going
in. What happened was they had old wooden markers that washed away shortly after they were buried by a flood. So they're not exactly sure, but based on maps of the area and whatnot, they believe this is the spot that Billy and the other 2 guys, I don't remember the guy's names.
They ought to take sonar in now and try to figure out where all the graves are.
Yeah, they could, but they've only got, like I say, about 5 of them marked. I think there's a lot of people buried in there, but there's only 5 markers because they were ones that happened to be, cement markers. So it was really cool. I mean, it's just, you go out there and Fort Sumner's gone. The old Fort Sumner's gone. There's only really the cemetery, and there's some other buildings out there, but nothing that was actually there before. But you go out there and you just kind of look over this and marvel at the idea of where all this was and what's happening. And I guess I found out also on this trip that the old tintype photograph that you always see, the classic one of Billy the Kid in Young Guns. You see him get the picture taken. I always thought that picture was taken in Lincoln, where most Pat Garrett was from, and where Billy kind of spent a lot of time when he was working for Tunstall.
Right.
And during the
we're really showing off our historical knowledge, like we know what we're talking about in this issue.
I always thought that tintype was taken there. Come to find out, it was actually at Fort Sumner and in this saloon that was on the far end of Fort Sumner. And so it was actually at the location where Billy would have gotten that picture taken as well. So,
very cool.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. They had a nice little museum there, which had depicted the history of Billy. Had a lot of old time stuff. Had actually autographs from Emilio Estevez. Somebody else, and I don't remember who it was. They had an actual shooting script there for Young Guns, and then because obviously they had people visit there when they were recording that or shooting that movie. So
very cool.
Anyway, that was sadly that was a highlight of my trip. All the rest of it was fantastic. I absolutely enjoyed everything we did, but that was just it was nice to get off of the touristy place and actually go look for this, because you got to really go find it in order to visit it. So it was a lot of fun.
How was New Fort Sumner?
New Fort Sumner. We weren't in it long because, like I say, we drove into town, then we went 3 miles east of it, 3 miles south.
Was it called New Fort Sumner?
No, it's just Fort Sumner.
Sci-fi lies.
Sci-fi lies?
Every time there's a sci-fi, it's always New York, new something.
No, it was just Fort Sumner.
There's an old Fort Sumner. It made sense to me. There ought to be a new Fort Sumner.
No. Historic.
Futuristic Fort Sumner.
Yeah. Well, I guess back then the fort was a fort, and now the fort is a town. So.
Well, cool. And you, Keith, were in...
I went the opposite direction and went up to Omaha.
North, back to Omaha.
Back to Omaha. Sarah and I went to Omaha to go to the zoo this time.
Looking for your molestating fangirl.
Did not find her. I did get commented once on my Doctor Who shirt I was wearing. I was wearing my Regeneration Get Out of Death Free card shirt, and one person commented, and when I was in the Barnes & Noble, and was like, hey, Doctor Who shirt, very cool.
Did you wear any of yours, Glenn?
My Doctor Who shirts? I had my Who.
Did you get any comments?
Didn't get any comments.
No comments. No. Albuquerque's uncool.
I think Albuquerque is too far removed from any sort of sci-fi, but actually they shouldn't be, because, and that was the other thing I wanted to do, was drive down to Roswell, but it would have been a 8-hour round trip to get to Roswell. So.
Chrissy, that's your backyard, so get on it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Keith, continue.
Get busy.
Omaha did not disappoint again with Who stuff. I came back with a calendar and a Torchwood Archives book. So I hadn't seen those things here in Topeka yet, so I went ahead and picked them up.
I hadn't seen yours.
And I keep telling him, spoilers, he keeps buying this stuff.
Yeah. Well, as long as he's
the
not
calendar
reading it.
I'm fine with.
As long as he's
and
not reading
in 3 weeks I can read the book. So
if the schedule holds.
If the schedule holds. If it doesn't hold, let me know so I can delay And
Yeah, well, time might all start happening at once, so then you'll have seen them, even though you haven't watched them yet.
Sean, you went to Fort Worth.
I went to Fort Worth, Texas, so I also went south. Mel had an opportunity to go train with Firehouse Software, which is a package that they use in her job at the state, and they put on a big shindig at the Omni Hotel in Fort Worth, and it was very nice. I did a lot of homework. I got almost caught up. I felt like a cruise ship stowaway because she would.
I saw your tweet that she kept smuggling your food.
She would bring food because all of the stuff for her was paid for. The meals and everything. So she would come up and bring me a plate of whatever, and I would eat in the room. It was a lot of fun. We stayed right across the street from where the Omni is the Fort Worth Water Gardens, which turns out is where parts of Logan's Run were filmed.
Oh, yeah.
Which I did not know until I got down there. And I thought, well, that was very cool. So I took pictures, and they're on the Facebook page.
It's always fun as a film buff, and especially a sci-fi film buff, when you stumble across those kind of things, and you go, hey, this was, wow, sometimes you go seek those things out, and then sometimes you stumble across them and go, I didn't know that was shot.
I had no idea it was shot there, and it totally makes sense. Well, there was the water gardens are just cool in general, and it's a little park right across the street. So one day I went out and I went to go check it out, and we kept saying, Mel, when you get a moment away from classes, we'll go down here and look, but I'll go scout it out first. And then it's on a plaque. Portions of, and I kept looking at this thing because it's this immense, big waterfall thing down to the end of the Logan's Run.
Why is this so familiar?
It looks like a power generator. They make reference to whatever it is, a water purifier or whatever, but it's just a big waterfall thing with rocks in it. And I kept looking at this going, huh. And then right there on the plaque, portions of Logan's Run were filmed here, starring Michael York and Peter Ustinov. And so I was like, oh, cool. So that definitely was.
You saw they're making a new one, didn't you?
No.
Yeah, they're
really?
They're remaking it.
Why?
I don't know.
But that would be another stop for the tour.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Glenn and I have had this idea that we've got to go on tour and go to these classic movie convention spots. Like you go to Mount Rushmore, and then you set up an outdoor screen and watch North by Northwest.
Oh.
You go to Devil's Tower in Wyoming and watch Close Encounters. So now we can go to the Fort Worth Water Gardens and watch Logan's Run. So it'll be perfect.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
That would be really
cool.
cool.
A lot of people that would.
I think I'd go.
Yeah.
Did have a disappointing thing. The fun thing, we were supposed to theoretically go last year, and last year's convention was held in Seattle. So Mel called me up at work. She says, I might be going to Seattle. Man, no time flat, like 0.04 seconds. I'm on the internet surfing Seattle trying to find out what there is to do. Space Needle, this, that. There's a science fiction museum in Seattle. I had my itinerary planned. I know what I'm doing while you're in class. These events are open late, so you can come with me afterwards. It was going to be great. And then they came on and said, you're not going to Seattle. We're going to send so-and-so, and I'm going. I was like, oh, okay. That's the boss. But we promise you'll go next year. So she relays this information to me, and I go, honey, next year's going to be someplace lame like Oklahoma City or Fort Worth. Lo and behold, we went to Fort Worth. Which it wasn't bad.
It's a nice city.
It is a nice city. A lot of cowboys, a lot of art.
To do there, yeah.
I didn't
Did you wear
even
your
think about
Stetson?
it. I didn't wear my Stetson. It was too hot, really. It was 90-some odd degrees down there all week.
Was it really?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Albuquerque
97.
got up in the 80s.
I think the lowest temperature we had was a 92 on Tuesday.
It was gorgeous in Omaha.
But I didn't think about it. Until like Friday afternoon. Had I thought about it earlier, I would have hopped a bus into Dallas and gone to the Book Depository Museum.
Oh, yeah.
In Dealey Plaza. Because what says vacation to me? Going to see where they shot somebody. You went to see where he got killed or where he's buried? Yeah. But I totally would have gone to see the Kennedy thing, but I didn't think about it until afterwards. So, like I said, not a bad trip. Had fun.
But Dallas is a manageable trip, too, so you could always get back down there.
Yeah, I'd say 8 hours.
yeah.
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that I'd go back to Fort Worth unless it was on somebody else's nickel.
Yeah.
But they announced the next year's convention's in Atlanta. Pretty much don't have any desire, so we'll probably get to go to that one, too.
I've been to Atlanta. There's not a lot down there. It's not very exciting.
I'll go. Now, I did get several pages of Cyberman Bob done when I was down there. But
I've heard there's 17 pages now.
Oh, he won't die.
This is turning into a novel, not a short story.
You are going to love
a novella, at least.
Yeah.
You who are so Cyberman orientated that you're defending every little thing they do. You're really going to get off on Cyberman Bob because you're going to be like,
I can't wait to
so
read it.
cool. He's like the baddest, coolest Cyberman ever.
This is going to make me want to get a Cyberman Bob tattoo.
Oh yeah, you're going to be all over it. Oh, Speaking of,
Okay.
Speaking of tattoos or Cyberman Bob?
yes, I did a little bit of research while I was down there, and I started sampling some podcasts, some other Doctor Who podcasts, which I've been out of the loop compared to you guys. And I wanted to give a shout out to 2 Minute Time Lord, which I love because it's short. It's
it's fantastic.
It fits right in with my attention span.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. It was the perfect length.
Yeah, Chip does a fantastic podcast.
Chip was very good. And I also I listened to a little bit of the Radio Free Scaro guys, and I enjoyed theirs.
They're good.
And Who on Who, which
Yes,
I enjoyed.
with David and Martin.
Now, I'm not an expert in these by
Now,
any stretch of the
Marty
imagination.
has actually written to us before, too.
Yeah.
He has, yes. But I just wanted to throw a shout out to them that I enjoyed what little I did here while I was down there. Now, one thing I did notice on all of the sites, not all of them, but the majority of the sites that I frequented, all of these sites had merchandise. Come buy our podcast merchandise stuff, and I came up with the first officially licensed Traveling the Vortex merchandise.
Okay.
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
T-shirts, Traveling the Vortex logo. I'm their number one fan. I figure we'll sell
like
about 1 billion of these.
All right, we'll get right on it.
So now, for all you people clamoring for it, it's time to put your money where your mouth is.
All right, we'll get on it then.
There are websites where we can get that made.
Oh, yeah. I also got a comment on my doctor. I felt bad because I got to the thing and I opened up the suitcase and realized I had packed nothing but Doctor Who T-shirts for the entire 5 days that we're going to be down there. I was like, okay, I guess we're set. Went the entire week. Friday night, got a comment on one of them from a very nice lady who admitted that she was a little drunk on the streets of Fort Worth because it was Friday night. Although it was only 10. So she'd gotten an early start.
10's not too early to be drunk. Or 10 a.m.
No, that would have been really early.
Oh, okay. No, 10's not too early to
10
be
o'clock
drunk.
somewhere.
No, I've
Really?
It sounds like she was a
There's
little...
been times I was drunk by 8.
I haven't listened to that podcast yet. So,
That's on our adults only podcast.
Wait a minute. Yeah, we're doing podcasts while I was drunk.
no, that's TARDIS Tavern.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
But, and she was all like, "Oh, what's your podcast?" So I started telling her a little bit about it, and then
You
realized
gave her a business card.
I didn't give her a business card because earlier in the day, I had tucked because it's such a little folder. I had tucked the room card in it, and we went down to the pool. And I jumped into the pool and didn't realize it until it floated across the hot tub. And I saw this and went, "That's the room." Oh no, it isn't. So all of the business cards I had with me were wet and soaked and ruined, and I didn't have one to give to her.
Bummer.
Somebody finally asked for a business card, and I was like, "Yeah."
Darn it.
It's www.travelingthevortex.com.
You wait for people to ask for your business cards?
Well, no,
I just hand them out. any sort of interest. Well, here, check this out. You know,
I finally had some interest. Somebody wrote, "Oh, cool shirt. Oh, thanks. Here." And, I don't have one to give you. But
well, hope you at least told
hopefully
told
she
her how
remembered.
to
I did
get
tell
to
her
the
about it.
site.
Hopefully she tuned in.
Oh, good.
Oh, I just got a good idea.
What?
Go into Hastings or someplace and tape our business cards to all the Doctor Who DVDs.
Ooh, there you go. See how fast they get removed by the management.
Well, yeah, we don't want them removed. We should glue them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Staples.
Hot glue gun. Hey, let's talk about news.
Muppet News Break. There's an obscure one for you.
Yeah,
Well-
that's not very obscure. That's kind of mainstream.
Is it mainstream? I hate being mainstream. Change
But
it.
which one do you do? Do you do the Sesame Street news flash with Kermit the Frog in the overcoat? I
think that's where I was aiming, but-
Or do you do the this is a Muppet news flash, and then you have the guy where something always happens to him related to
The Walter
news that he's
Cronkite
reading.
looking.
Yes,
guy,
exactly. Yeah.
I don't know. I think in my head I was going with the Kermit the Frog
young
on the
Andy
street.
Rooney, or maybe even like Ted. He's not Ted Koppelish.
He's kind of Ted Cott with his hair.
Yeah, the
and
hair, because
chin.
it's orange, but he's got the the glasses.
I never thought of
Anyway.
orange, but okay.
Well, his hair is orange, but Koppel's hair is like that auburn, So yeah,
He looks a little bit like Conan O'Brien, but he's deadly serious.
yeah, that's true. Anyway, so what news? There's now here. The first I heard about this was because Sean is
I didn't hear about it
is
until
in
John
Fort
either.
Worth bored and tweeting all afternoon.
I wasn't bored. I just had it up, and I thought...
But he missed
Mel
the
says
Friday night
from the
Who-
background he wasn't doing homework.
But he also missed the Friday Night Who UK where they did Doctor Who the movie.
Totally.
Oh, is that
Spaced
what they
it.
did Friday?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
I asked ahead of time because I said I'm going to be available. He says we're doing Doctor Who the movie, and I was like, oh, this is so perfect. Mark and Alex are going to watch. I'm going to be able to join in because I have Friday, And then I don't know, sometime around 3:00 or something, I finally got on and booted up because I was reading. I was actually doing textbook work as opposed to computer work, so I didn't have my Twitter stream up. And I just happened to get on, and they were like, "Well, that about wraps it up for us." And I was like,
Oh.
So apologies to Mark and Alex because I missed it. I was so looking forward to it, too. And then I didn't get to partake in Friday Night Who here either because
Yeah, it was a very lonely Friday Night Who this week.
my copy didn't work.
Ah.
I was tweeting by myself.
Oh, there were other people listening.
I hope so.
You just don't know.
I was reading your tweets going, he got very upset over the way K9 was treated.
Oh.
You did comment even a couple of times after you signed off, so I knew at least you were watching.
Well, yeah, I was there in spirit with
I
him,
was
but-
in bed because I was getting about to get up at 3:00 in the morning. So you were probably finishing as I was getting up. that
Probably,
morning, so.
because that was a long episode.
Yeah.
And then we got up early to go get Sean at the airport. Anyways, news.
I got up early to fly to the airport. I don't want to hear it from you. We appreciate you coming down for us.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, quite the downer news this week is that BBC Three has announced the cancellation of Doctor Who Confidential, and the show's been on the air running simultaneously with Doctor Who ever since it came back in 2005. And this week's episode on the River Song episode is to be the last. No more. Unless it can be saved, which there are efforts underway. Now,
Which is a shame because I saw part of this week's Doctor Who Confidential and it was really good.
there's a lot of debate right now among some of these people that as to whether or not Doctor Who Confidential is worth saving. A lot of people are apparently of the opinion that, the show really hasn't been all that good. It's been kind of a mutual backslapping appreciation party for the last couple of years, and I can certainly see that. As a Yank, we don't get the show except as the bonus disc on the DVD set. And that's,
Which did we even get that this last one? I thought
We
they
did,
were,
yeah.
Okay,
On
I thought they were
season 5 it
omitting
did.
that.
yeah, no.
Or they cut them down, I guess is what they did.
They may be cut down,
Yeah.
but that's all the special features. Of
I
Doctor Who
watched all
Confidential.
of the. I obtained a copy and watched all of the episode for the Impossible Astronaut, and I thought it was fascinating because they talked about how they completely built the White House or the Oval Office from scratch. It was a fascinating episode. I just never got around to obtaining other copies. Of course, my numbers wouldn't account for over there anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Well, and
And I'm not sure signatures on these petitions that are floating around from us would matter either.
I don't know. I was thrilled to see that they are up. The petition is up to over 28,000 signatures.
Oh, nice.
The news broke Friday, Thursday,
No, I was at work.
Wednesday.
Must have been Wednesday because I didn't leave till Tuesday. Or
Yeah, because
Thursday.
I was still in Omaha.
Okay, so it was Wednesday that the news broke on this. So it is now Tuesday. So just under a week. They've got 28,000 signatures on it, which I think is pretty deal. I did go to BBC and lodge a complaint. My point of view is that, and I mentioned this to him. It was like, you're canceling a show that, and I think a lot of people feel this way. It is still geared to kids, and it's twofold. One, it kind of illustrates that the monsters are not real, and that it's it is a behind the scenes glimpse at that, which I think is important. But Doctor Who Confidential was always the one sponsoring the kids write in and design the TARDIS. Kids write in and do an episode. What would you like to see on Doctor Who? And
Was it?
Yeah, Doctor Who Confidential was very, very child orientated, and they went into the schools and
Well,
they
there was
sponsored
even
things.
a special in this last one written by students featuring Albert Einstein and the 11th Doctor, set in the TARDIS and everything.
Yeah, and they went and filmed it based on what the kids had written in, saying this
Oh,
is
okay.
what we'd
I guess
like
what
to
I
see.
had what I had seen of the Confidential, I had never seen it.
So and I thought that was important. Plus, it's Doctor Who. It's an important thing to keep going, if for no other reason.
Especially leading into the anniversary.
Yeah, you've got the anniversary coming up. You've got, I mean, like I said, this is your how expensive is it to produce DVD extras? You've already got the show. Cut it down and edit it, and you're good.
I
Or
think
just slap it on there.
Well, you get now. Let me tell you right now, the BBC proper, the entity that creates the shows and airs them, is in a budget strain right now, from what I understand.
Right.
They're having some problems. The entity that creates the content for the DVDs, the extras and things like that, is To Entertain, which is funded through BBC Worldwide. And BBC Worldwide, to my understanding, is not having any sort of financial constraints right now, because they are the licensing division of BBC. And what they do is they are the ones that are able to license it out to the different companies that can then, market it that way. They're also the ones that are in charge of putting the DVDs together and whatnot, releasing them overseas. I think even BBC Worldwide is what's connected to BBC America, because that's what's allowed to, because they can make money off of BBC Worldwide. They are not allowed to make money or make profit off of BBC One, and that all comes from the television licenses that they buy. So let me put that in perspective.
Right? No.
I want to put that in there as play devil's advocate a bit.
And since we don't get we don't get BBC Three here. I mean, our only window into BBC is BBC America, so we're not privy to a lot of the programming decisions that go on. But I received a letter back, an email back from,
which is amazing that you
BBC.
even got a response.
I don't think so. It's kind of canned. I'll read it out here. Dear Mr. Collins, thanks for contacting us regarding Doctor Who Confidential on BBC Three. We understand you're unhappy the series is coming to an end. The Doctor Who spin-off series, Doctor Who Confidential, has been a great show for BBC Three over the years, but our priority now is to build on original British commissions unique to the channel. We regularly have to make difficult decisions, and unfortunately sometimes they will prove unpopular with sections of the audience. We'd like to assure you the feedback we've received has been included in our audience log. This is an internal report on audience feedback which we compile daily, and it's available by viewing by all our staff. This includes all program makers and commissioning executives along with our senior management. It ensures that the issues our audience raised with us are circulated and considered across the BBC. Thanks again for taking the time to write at us. Kindest regards, BBC Audience Services. Now, here's the problem I have with this response. Our priority now is to build on original British commissions unique to the channel. I don't think you can get any more unique or British than Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it.
And especially a show about Doctor Who.
What more is there?
It almost sounds like BBC Three is trying to step away from connecting to the other BBC channels.
Well, that's what I wonder. As you read that, that's what I hear, is that we're trying to distance ourselves from BBC One, BBC Two, and become our own unique thing. And if you're using a BBC One flagship program to drive traffic to BBC Three, maybe that's what they don't want, and they're trying to.
But
distance
if it's getting
that.
traffic, I don't see what the problem would be.
Well, I would agree.
Yeah,
if they say during the credits, tune over to BBC Three for Doctor Who Confidential,
which they do.
They do.
And then tune in next for whatever. And if you're not interested in whatever, you're going to flip over.
That's exactly what they do. You're describing exactly what they do at the end of each.
But if you're not interested in what's next, and you don't know something else, you're going to go to BBC Three to watch it. Why would you not cross-promote, cross-push to other stations?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like it's
thing.
different parent companies that are competing against each other.
Right.
Yeah. The big thing that what I've been understanding from a lot of the people who are very upset over it is that the other programs that are on BBC Three are of the reality nature, and we certainly feel the bane of that here in the States, with every other show being a Dancing with the Stars, American Idol piece of trash. Yeah. And I probably alienated a bunch of people by saying that, but I'm sorry. I agree. It's not television. And I really hope the reality bubble bursts soon, because I really can't take it anymore. That's why I don't watch TV.
I'll preface that by saying competition reality shows. Because in essence, Doctor Who Confidential is a reality show.
What's more reality than the actors in the show talking about?
Well, that is the difference. When you come out and say, we're going to do a reality show. Okay, a reality show is the news. That's what you guys do. Mm-hmm. A reality show would be the Discovery Channel, a documentary. Doctor Who Confidential. Okay, that's a reality show. Putting 8 people in a house and putting cameras on them and seeing what happens, Big Brother stuff, that's not a reality
really
show.
Happens.
That's a game show.
Yeah. Same thing with Survivor. Same thing with
Survivor. And
which
any of those
the Emmys have broken those out, haven't they? Because they've broken out competition,
right.
and then, which all those are competition reality shows, and then like...
why is there a category at the Emmys for a game show?
I don't know.
That's the question I want asked.
Why does the Amazing Race
the
constantly win?
The daytime Emmys have always had a game show category.
Just the primetime Emmys
Right.
have in the most recent
Then the
years.
primetime Emmys need to put all these reality shows under game show. If there's a cash prize at the end of the season, it's game show. I'm sorry,
Well,
I don't care
but-
how you
I
break it
would
down.
agree.
It's game show.
But it does break it down to...
They shouldn't get an award.
No, what I'm saying is they've got the
They really
competition crap, and then they've got...
The wonderful
The
thing is
good
when the
reality
writers
shows.
for Survivor are nominated for an Emmy. The writers of Survivor. Wait a minute. Isn't this thing writing itself?
I
Come on.
feel my blood pressure going up, so I'm going to. But if you believe, as I believe we do, I certainly do, that Doctor Who Confidential is worth saving, make sure you head over. We'll post the link in the show notes, and if you haven't already signed the petition, you can follow save DWC on
We'll
Twitter.
have it in the show notes because Sean's inevitably going to get it wrong.
And you can get
You notice I didn't try to give the link to
Yes,
the.
nice.
You can get a Twitter badge too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, did you see my Twitter badge?
I did.
I mean no disrespect to the people who came up with the Twibbon, which I thought was so clever. A Twibbon. It's a Twitter ribbon. That's cool. But you sign up for the whole thing, and you can put this badge on your avatar, on your Twitter page that shows I support Doctor Who Confidential, or whatever the thing happens to
Whatever you
be.
happen to be.
And I was like, sweet. And I went, I signed up for it, and I put it on there, and it's so tiny.
Yeah,
You can't make it out. You can't read it. And even when you click on it and bring it up, it's still blurry and fuzzy. And I was like,
Well, it's new. You don't see that very often. They're going to hopefully improve it.
hopefully they'll improve it.
Oh, I remember when
But
they were doing
I have one.
Twibbons for a lot of the stuff over in India, I believe. And everyone had those green ribbons on their Twitter.
Boy, I missed out on that.
That was a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. That was before you got onto Twitter.
I knew.
But, yeah, I mean, they've done Twibbons before, so it might just be they need to redesign their Twibbon, because the other ones were fairly clear. I noticed yours were yours was
Well, there's a lot of
listed.
information crammed in there.
It was during the multi-stage terror attacks, wasn't it, over there, that were at the different
It was where
hotels?
they were, like, the government was shutting people down and
that's right.
limiting
Yeah, that's what it
access,
was.
and
That's right. That's
a whole bunch of
But it
celebrities
had,
jumped
because
on
it was internet based. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah, so that's kind of been the big news this week.
A bit of small news
Go ahead.
is that BBC America is holding a Halloween contest where you can submit photos of your costume, and if it fits one of 5 categories, which they'll decide what category you're under, and then it'll go to judges to review, and then it'll go online for people visiting the website to vote on their favorite costume. And the winner gets a $50 shopping spree on the BBC America website.
Keith, why did you zero in on something like that?
I was told about it by a coworker of mine, and
Really?
yeah, Robert.
I thought
told,
maybe you zeroed in on it because you're a cosplayer.
Robert told me about it. He was like, "You should submit one."
Yeah,
and
you
I was like,
definitely should.
and I did.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Terrific.
So if I make it through, I will let everyone know and push constantly to get that voting on, and I will use that $50 shopping spree to benefit Traveling the Vortex.
All right.
Oh, well.
However,
Sweet.
I can.
Can
If
you buy
that's-
mics on BBC America? 'Cause we could use a few of those.
If that's getting some of the DVDs in order to do some Friday Night Who
Oh, there
that
you
we
go.
haven't been able to do,
There you go.
that's what I will
Bonus.
do.
Of course,
Even if I don't know if it's good.
$50 on BBC America, that could get you a disc and a half there. No offense,
true.
BBC America. Please support BBC America in any way possible.
BBC America, if you're looking for a show that apparently is not British, you should pick up Doctor Who
There
Confidential.
you go.
I understand that's what you guys have on BBC America. You've picked up the X-Files, Star Trek The Next Generation, and Battlestar Galactica, so
None of which are British.
why not?
Anyway, well, even their
Looking at the website,
even their British movie of the week or whatever they used to call that thing isn't not even. It maybe has one British actor in it. It's not even a British film.
when I was looking at the categories, 3 of the 5 pictures were from Doctor Who
Oh, is that right?
of still shots from the show.
So it's not a Doctor Who specific contest.
No,
Oh,
you could
okay.
submit a costume from Luther, Battlestar Galactica, anything that airs on BBC America.
I think you and I should just dress in overcoat and ties, and we'll call ourselves Sherlock.
There you go. All right, let's move on to feedback. Oh, any more news this week? Any more substantial news? If you're having to fish for it, then there's not.
I don't believe
feedback.
so. I think that was it.
Feedback. First bit of feedback comes from Mark Lee.
I still think we need a feedback jingle.
Feedback open. I can try to work on that.
Paul Schaefer playing.
Feedback.
I was just going to compile like music and sound clips from the show, but okay.
Feedback.
Matt Smith going, I've got mail.
Feedback.
Mark Lee writes into us and says, "Hey guys, I decided to watch Star Wars A New Hope, and I loved it. It was brilliant.
We knew you would.
But I'll be honest, it was your passion behind the saga that got me through the last half hour. Everything up to saving Princess Leia was brilliantly entertaining, but the final half hour where they got back to the Death Star did seem to drag a little bit. But other than that, everything was brilliant."
He's talking about the Battle of Yavin there.
I know.
That I can understand Tatooine being slow. Battle of Yavin?
Mark, you've got it all backwards. The desert is boring and slow. The end. How could you be bored at the end of Star Wars? There's spaceships and laser beams
I didn't
and
think
explosions.
Was he saying it was boring? Did he say it was boring? I'm sorry.
He said it dragged.
He said it dragged.
Well,
Did
okay.
seem to drag a bit.
Let me continue.
I'm sorry.
I'm currently halfway through The Empire Strikes Back, and the first half definitely makes up through my slight, and I stress the word slight, boredom, in the last 30 minutes. I can't believe I've managed to avoid watching such a brilliant saga for so many years.
We'll see if he still feels that way after the prequels.
Anywho, I may send you guys a review of the Series 6 finale when it airs, and if I don't, you know that either I've been hit by a truck or I've ran out to find the new Star Wars DVDs on Blu-ray. Hopefully, I'll get a free t-shirt. And I've noticed you guys have been asking the new time viewers to send some feedback and tell you how they found the podcast. So I thought I might as well tell you how you gained 3 more fans, Alex, Luke, and myself. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the site Life, Doctor Who, and Combomb,
Yep.
but every week they do a podcast of the week post, and I spotted the words traveling the vortex. That's the rather uninteresting way I found my favorite podcast.
Aw.
But before this message ends, I have one very important question. Can I please have my geek card back? From the Whovian and Star Wars fan, Mark McMarmite.
Sean has devised a way, Mark, for you to get your geek card back.
Here's the deal, Mark. I'm taking classes, and I can't just go to the teacher and say, yeah, I read that material, and expect to get an A. I have to take a test. So we've devised a Traveling the Vortex sanctioned Star Wars test for you to prove that you actually watched this thing, which I have serious doubts now that you've said you were bored during the last half hour of the film. 3 questions.
The only way you can be bored at the last half hour is if you were falling asleep.
Now we're not going to. This is not going to be all saga inclusive. We're just going to deal with New Hope.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Glenn, first question.
First question. What is the name of Luke's childhood friend that he's reunited with at or prior to the Battle of Yavin?
Ooh. That could be a tough one.
I'm going to make him tough.
He's gonna make him tough.
We're
especially
gonna make all
since
of
he
these
said
tough.
the boring part was Battle of Yavin.
Sure, he was actually paying
I'm going
attention.
to come to Mark's defense now. We'll get to the other 2 questions here. The Battle of Yavin, I can see where somebody would, because that's the 3rd chapter.
The third act.
The third act, yeah. The climactic finale is incredible. It's awesome. But there's a lot of that battle sequence that, the setup to it, and suddenly you're divided from your main characters. In the first act, second act, first act is character development. Second act is rescuing the princess and working together as a team. The third act is a division, especially since at that point is where we lose Han Solo for a good chunk of it. The only focus,
almost all of it.
The only focus is Luke. You get a little bit of R2, the interaction there, but I can see where it does. It
And a
has a
little
different
bit of
feel
Leia.
because you get thrown at a lot of different other characters that are really inconsequential. I mean, they have to be
lot of
there
them
in order.
die.
Yeah, exactly. They have to be there as part of the offensive, the offensive. But so I can see where somebody might get a little disinterested at part. But the setup for the Battle of Yavin and the finale of Battle of Yavin is incredible, and so I can see where you could get a little lost and maybe feel that it drags a bit there. The battle might feel a little long to somebody. I can see that.
I'm going to allow it.
Sean, do you got a question for Mark?
I do have a question for Mark. I went with a little more, not a softball, but a little more.
By the way, an addendum to my question. I'm sorry. I only need the first name because I'm not sure they say his last name.
Oh yeah, we're not going to.
I don't think they say it either.
I'll give you a hint. It's not Bob. My question, Mark, is what was Luke's call sign in the Battle of Yavin?
That's a good one.
That's a good question.
Good one.
And Keith?
I will pull my question
And
from
he's standing
earlier in
by.
the movie. It is, which planet does Princess Leia give Moff Tarkin as the base of the rebels?
Yeah, a good one. Because that one, that's a good one.
That does require you to pay attention there.
You have to be
There's some
paying
confusion there too. Initially, if you're not careful.
Well, there's a lot of planets thrown around.
Yeah.
That
Well, and because it's so similar sounding to that other one.
if that doesn't help you a little bit.
that doesn't give it away.
I didn't give it
Anyway.
away. All right, so there's your question. Now, we will expect a response from me by next week's show, which obviously a short week for you this week because we'll be back on schedule.
Turn it around quick.
But then we'll see about getting your geek card back out of the teacher's drawer.
Moving along.
Move it right along.
Moving right
Our
along.
next bit is from the first part of Holly Mac's email.
Oh, are we on Holly Max? You've got it all set up for me.
I do.
Holly Mack or Hollywood from Wisconsin writes.
Glenn's Holly.
Not Glenn's Holly. Writes, hey guys, loved your last podcast with all of the tangents. You're the only one, Holly. I have a couple of comments on those tangents before going into my thoughts on the Series 6 finale. I, too, am a big Star Wars buff. I may have, when I was a little girl, wore out the beta copy. Wow. Of Star Wars that...
You might be dating yourself there.
Alex is saying, what's
There's
beta?
two of us at this table that probably remember beta machines very well.
I
There's another
very,
one that
very
probably
remember.
saw one.
I've worked with beta machines.
Well,
Did you really?
I mean,
in TV stations.
I mean set-top beta. Yeah,
I-
because beta's
I-
been around a
I-
long time
I haven't
in television.
Yeah.
But we're talking home set-top beta
I
max.
haven't used a home set top. I've used commercial beta.
It doesn't count.
It's still a beta.
It's a beta, but it's
At least
it's a
it's
beta
for-
pro.
for
It usually
that
beta
matter,
pro
I know what a
with
tape
ASP,
looks
so-
like.
Yes.
For that matter, I never used it either. I remember seeing them back in the day in the grocery stores when they had... For those of you who don't know, beta was the alternative format to VHS that lost
Which
the
many
format
will
war.
still say is
It was
superior.
It was
superior.
superior.
Yeah,
It really
superior
was.
format.
But as with most things,
Problem
it was released
is-
by Sony,
Well,
and they
and
screwed it up.
Oh, until Blu-ray.
They were they won this time, but
Well,
they were
they-
charging way too much for the format.
They bought that war.
Yeah,
I hate
they really
to
did.
tell you, but
They
they
really
bought the
did.
Blu-ray war. At any rate, she wore out her copy of the Star Wars beta that her parents had. My favorite Star Wars movie would have to be Empire Strikes Back, then followed by Return of the Jedi. What can I say? I like Ewoks. As for Star Trek, I love
They
episodes.
blink now.
I love
They do
episodes
blink.
3 and 4, and the reboot. I liked 2, but not as much as 4. Scotty trying to get the computer to work when they traveled back in time is one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
Mine too.
It's a lot of fun.
She goes on to talk about Wedding of River Song, which we will hold on to that
revisit at the end here.
and revisit it at the end.
I'm not the only person that likes 3. Thank you, Holly, for coming and backing me up.
Yes, Keith needs some people in his camp every now and then.
And thanks for writing in, Holly. Next bit of feedback came from Facebook.
This little piece. Oops. Every time you hand me stuff to read, I always push a button. And I can't read it.
We're gonna have to get Glenn, like paper copies.
I could print them off.
This bit of feedback, as
we're
Keith said, came
save
from
the environment.
Facebook. And it comes from Melanie Marie.
Not my Melanie.
Who I believe
Not
pointed
Sean's
us
Melanie.
to
I'll be
the
done.
Cracked article about how
Yes.
Doctor Who
yeah,
became
that's where it
a
originally
religion.
came from.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. A little behind, sorry. But in response to Stephen Moffat shows up at your door offering a Doctor Who story of your choice from the Stormageddon podcast, I would love to
You're not
work with
behind
him
Melanie,
to...
that's just a week ago.
That's right. I would love to work with him to create perhaps a bit of a one-off following an adventure of the Corsair mentioned in The Doctor's Wife. I would also ask if Neil Gaiman could stop by and offer his 2 cents. Maybe the Doctor meets him by chance in his travels, or we follow an unsolved mystery with research started by the Corsair with a bunch of flashbacks. Basically, the Corsair, I'd want to know more. Very good, yeah.
I could see that being a very interesting idea.
It's a good idea.
I think they're interesting characters nonetheless that aren't explored very deeply. I mean, you kind of wonder how they got there, why, what's going on there, and it would be very interesting.
When you get just enough to move the plot along of that episode, and then because that's obviously not what it's about.
Right, absolutely. So it leaves you wanting to know a little more.
I posed the question to Sarah.
You poised?
Posed the question.
You poised it?
Posed the question. Poised.
You could poise it.
I poised it too.
Poison.
I suddenly had a Bronx accent.
A really bad Englishman doing a Bronx accent.
Her idea was...
No, let me rephrase. You were an Englishman doing a really bad Bronx accent, not a really bad Englishman. I should be more clear. There are no bad Englishmen.
Well, I'm sure there are some bad Englishmen.
No, they're all wonderful people.
They're all wonderful, okay.
Her idea was a story all from Rory's perspective on how he feels about everything with the Doctor, because we've not gotten especially with all the baby stuff of Melody, how he feels about all of this.
Yeah, that's a good point, because that'd be
a very interesting story.
That is good. I like that one.
So that was
instead of Amy's choice, it would be Rory's choice.
Yeah, there you go.
Or Rory's thoughts.
Rory's thoughts.
Oh crap! I'm dead again.
Inner monologue and yeah.
All right, so the rest of that is...
The rest of the feedback is saved for the Wedding of River Song.
All right, terrific. Well, let's head into this week's review of the final episode, or the final story.
Thank goodness.
For the Key of Time. Now, that's not a reflection on what you thought of the Armageddon Factor, is it?
No, I'm just... Honestly, and
Are you getting tired of Baker?
I am a little bit. I told Mel earlier, it was like, this is funny, being such a huge Tom Baker fan. I've been so looking forward to this. And maybe it's a reflection of the writing, because, as you pointed out, this is kind of an up-and-down series. Yeah. The Key to Time is not the strongest Doctor Who out there. And there are times when it literally all hinges on Baker. He's carrying this thing to the finish line.
I think so, yeah.
And it's starting to wear a little thin. I enjoy his antics. I enjoy the acting. I think he's very funny. But it's almost to that point where it's like...
There's almost only so much you can tolerate of it if it doesn't have a good story.
I think that's it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Even Canine can only help so much.
Yeah, and that's part of it. So I'm not going to lie. I'm actually very much looking forward to stepping back next week. And going to William Hartnell just for something different.
But then for Halloween, aren't we going back to Baker?
Yeah,
we are going back to Baker
for about 3 weeks.
We've got a good chunk of Halloween.
By the way,
coming up.
This is just because it's Tom Baker related. I finally framed that Tom Baker print that you got for me in Omaha last time you went. So which you gave to me at my birthday in June. Yeah. So 3 months later, I finally got it in a frame, and it is up in my office.
Oh, very cool.
So I'm still working on frames for 2 of my signed pictures, but the one from you and then the Boba Fett. So anyway, I don't know why I felt the need of a progress report of getting my stuff hung, but
I don't know if we've talked about that on the show, but okay.
He brought him some artwork. It was Tom Baker. I was insanely jealous because he gave it to Glenn and not me. And
it was his birthday.
You still have a really cool scarf.
It was his birthday.
I still haven't gotten Kara to do my
password to your computer. That ain't gonna work.
I was like, how did you know my password?
I still haven't gotten Kara to do my scarf yet. I'm kicking myself, and it's going to start getting cold.
It's going to get cold, and you're going to wish you'd had it done.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, there's K9.
At least I've got my Jane hat now for winter.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Anyways, the Armageddon Factor.
Armageddon Factor.
The Key to Time is almost complete. With only one piece still to find, Dr. Romana and K9 arrive on Atrios, a planet in the middle of a terrible war with its twin world Zeos. To restore the balance of the universe for the White Guardian, the Doctor must find the 6th segment before the planets destroy each other. But Zeos is deserted. So who's behind the war?
Da-da-da.
Dun dun dun! It's a better dun 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 than that.
Okay.
Armageddon's it's a fine story. It's not.
It was good.
It's nothing phenomenal, but it's a good story, especially coming off of two really duds. I mean,
It wasn't as
I'll
good as
go-
the Stones of Blood, in my
I'll
opinion.
go. Dun,
no, it's much better than Stones of Blood too.
No,
This
it is
one,
not.
yeah.
If
no,
it
this
were
one-
down
it's
to
not as good
4
as Pirate
episodes,
Planet,
it would be better. It felt
I'll-
a little
I'll-
dragged
I
out.
will
it's a
place
little
it-
long. I'll give you that.
I will place
I'll
it a
give you that.
square third out of the 6. Pirate Planet's first, Stones of Blood second, and Armageddon
All
Factor.
right. See, I just flop this one and Stones of Blood
I don't see it.
in your lineup. So
Keith, lead us off. What do you think?
I don't know if I was just on my game or paying too close of attention, but I called a lot of stuff in this episode.
Yes, you did.
Early
Are
on.
you ready for this? Did you see any of the tweets?
no,
that
I
you-
didn't. I didn't.
Early.
Like I said, I was in bed.
Now, I don't know exactly
Second
where this
episode.
came, but it was
Second
somewhere in the second
episode.
episode. I get this tweet from Keith that says, "I'm calling it now. Astra is the 6th segment." And I'm in my hotel room at the Omni going, "No, you weren't supposed to figure that out." yet."
I was secretly hoping that I would be wrong because I had this conversation with Glenn about some of the keys being a little predictable, and he was like, "You'll never guess what the last key is."
Didn't I? Yeah, well, I was trying to put you off
You
because I
completely
thought,
convinced me.
oh, great, he's going to figure this one out real easy. Yeah, no, I tried to put you off when I was doing
And then
you also figured out that the White Guardian was the Black Guardian, too, and I was trying to put you off of that, too.
that especially. I was like, because I mentioned that, I was like, that would be really cool if he was actually working for the Black Guardian and didn't know it the whole time,
Right.
and that ended up being the case, and it wasn't as cool as I thought it would
I
be.
tried to put you off of that one, too.
I appreciated the twist at the end of it.
What a
that
twist.
He was working for the Black Guardian. That the Black Guardian was that manipulated everybody into finding these keys.
Right.
But the resolution just seems so rushed. Of, oh no, it's the Black Guardian. Poof. Okay, I sent the keys back.
Yeah.
It completely negated
Had to-
everything we did the last 6 weeks.
I think part of that is the scene where when the missiles fly up and hit the planet of evil, which looks nothing like a planet, and I didn't think was particularly evil or malevolent in and of itself.
It looked like a space station.
When that's destroyed and the Shadow's giving
That's
his
no moon. It's a space station.
it did look like a space station. That's what I thought it was. When the Shadow's giving his big, long, overly dramatic death scene, I failed you, Master. And then the Black Guardian shows up. I expected no less of you, but I have a surprise. And he turns into the Colonel Sanders White Guardian, and all of a sudden it's like...
Which looked like a different actor to me. It didn't look as much Colonel Sanders. I had to ask Sean afterwards, and I was like, so he was working for the Black Guardian. The Black Guardian was the White Guardian, right? He's like, yeah. And I was like, it didn't look like Colonel Sanders to me. He did not have...
Well, I think he's supposed to look a little different because he doesn't have that
he didn't have that
pure look,
southern
you know.
look.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't dressed in the hat and
Right,
sipping a mint
right.
julep.
I think
Right.
even
He
his
had
mustache
he had the funny
was...
Time Lord hat almost.
Yeah,
on his
exactly.
head. So.
Yeah.
I assumed kind of that's what it was at the end of the episode, but
I think that ruins it, is when he comes up and they reveal that he's going to disguise himself as the White Guardian. Well, you've let us in on it now, so you know we're rooting for the Doctor when he keeps going. Oh, just a minute. Now, shouldn't we do? You know,
Yeah, that's where it falls down. Yeah.
yes, if we eliminated that scene, there would have still been a little bit of dramatic tension. You probably could have had Romana give a couple more lines about, "Come on, Doctor, what are you doing? Don't you remember he threatened
Right.
you with nothing?" So, yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I like the idea of the one planet warring the other planet, but the only reason they're warring with it because they don't realize it's inhabited, that it's this, this smart computer that's been playing this game the whole time, and then you've got this, third planet, which is the planet of evil, which I thought was a little kitschy, but with the Shadow, and he's manipulating everything as well. I kind of like that 3-part work there, and how the one. What was the guy's name that was in charge of the war on their planet?
The Marshal.
The Marshal,
The Marshal.
yeah. I mean, I really liked that in character. I enjoyed it.
And John Woodvine,
Yeah.
he's a great actor.
He did a fantastic job.
He did do a fantastic job. It was a little hammy,
But
and
I
over the
liked
top,
that about
what it was
it.
supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
It
It
totally
was
had that.
necessary.
He was the captain.
Right,
Only
exactly.
more important because he's a marshal and he's
Right.
got bigger shoulder braids. So.
I like the fact that what was the little transporter that kept taking them to the
transmat.
Yeah,
Oh, the transmat.
Yeah, the transmat was just like I don't know. That was kind of weird and random, but for a while until you kind of figure out what's going on, where they're going. But that was pretty cool.
I also called the fact that the evil planet was empty, that they weren't actually fighting anyone.
No, that wasn't the
Early
evil
on.
planet. That was the other planet.
The
planet
other
that
Zeos.
they were. Yeah,
There are no Zetons on Zeos.
Right.
The planet they're fighting.
yeah.
I
do.
I
that was the
did
other
call
thing.
that early on.
I do like the fact that they decide, well, we've got 5 pieces of this thing. Let's replicate the 6th piece and use it to create a time loop. Maybe
I did
it'll
like the time
work.
loop.
You know, it's almost like the Doctor's not quite sure if this is going to pan out or not, and it's like shorting out as they're trying to work on.
Because
it.
you know, one time I had broken my ignition key to my car, and I broke one of the tooth off of it. And I fashioned a new one out of some putty and stuck it in there, and it got me to the locksmith. No, it didn't.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was cool.
The
First time I had, even though we've had a planet be the key, and we've had the Kraken be the key. Well, the Kraken actually swallowed the key, but you know, even though we've had that happen, when the first time I saw this, I didn't have any idea that Astra was Princess Astra.
I
was
didn't
the
either.
key.
The first time,
That
and it had
wasn't-
been obviously since I was a kid,
Yeah.
since the last time I saw this, and that revelation, which going back and watching it now, wow, did they telegraph this from
Oh
day
yeah,
one?
yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
And
Yeah.
I was disappointed that you saw it, but at the same time, once I started watching the episode, it was like,
You were disappointed that you missed it.
how could he not
Yeah,
have seen this? I'd
exactly.
really have to belittle Keith
Yeah,
if he didn't cue into
exactly.
this, because it's like, you know, okay,
Which-
we just locked her up in the radiation room, and then we land and point the tracer at the room,
And
They've
that's when
already
I knew.
they've already established there's nobody else in there,
Right.
Well, it's going nuts. And then they find the headband. Well, it used to be touching it. Then they find the wristband. Well, I think it's come in contact with it. And then her whole spiel about
and it's
I'm
very-
the 6th daughter of the 6th house of the 6th blah blah blah.
Yeah, all the 6s.
Ding ding ding.
Although,
This is not written
in-
by Stephen Moffat. It's very, very transparent.
in your defense,
Wait, after the Wedding of River song, I think all of this season was transparent. We just weren't looking the right place.
we were assuming misdirection. That's what we assumed.
Yes.
In your defense, it's very possible that when they pointed it at, because this also went through my mind, oh, it's another piece of jewelry that Princess Astra is wearing. And then I just tweeted to just go further out there, just on a lark, that it was actually her.
But since we've already had
Two pieces of jewelry? Why wouldn't the third be a jewelry, too?
we didn't have 2 pieces of jewelry. Well,
Yeah, we did.
technically the thing that Kroll swallowed.
Well, then that's 4.
No,
What was the first one you're thinking
the
of?
first one?
Rebos. That
Ri-
piece
ri-
of jewelry.
No,
It
it was
wasn't
a
a jewel,
rock.
it was a rock.
Oh, well, okay.
That was a Gareth.
A
or
gem.
Jareth, I guess.
Jareth.
it
A
was.
gem, jewelry.
Okay, I'll allow you. There was
Nah,
a
it was a gem.
gemstone.
A
gemstone.
It was a
It
rock.
jewelry.
And then the
Jewelry would have been set into some sort of metal
And then the
I
planet.
wear. You weren't going to wear that
Califrax.
big old giant rock.
and then
You
the
could.
jewelry for.
Are you kidding? The kids nowadays with the big clocks around, they could wear that. Somebody put a
The
big
kids
chain on it.
nowadays with the big clocks. Wasn't that like in the early 90s?
Wasn't that
Flava
like
Flav
15
and-
years ago?
Yeah, it was like the kids nowadays. What decade are you still living in?
I may be dating myself just a bit with that. True
Those
story.
darn kids and their big clocks and their,
It was.
their untied Adidas shoes.
alarm clock.
I can tell you exactly when it was. It was 91 when that fad hit. I was at Topeka High. And
You were in high school.
I was in high school. I was a senior in high school.
Here, young
And somebody,
whippersnappers.
are you ready for this? Somebody, you know the big clocks on the wall in school? Somebody stole one out of the library and then was surprised when they got caught wearing it around the school.
Oh, wow.
And this thing is, I mean, they were this wide and this big. He looked like Tweaky carrying Dr. Theophilus around. There's an obscure one for you.
Yeah, no, that one is obscure. I'll give you that one.
Really showing my age
There
now.
you go.
But I guarantee somebody would reward the Jareth. They could have put a chain through that, and
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so
it's like
I
Superman's
didn't think-
kryptonite in the.
I didn't think it was that big.
I just associated the locket. That was the only one I associated as jewelry. The one where what's her name? was
Stones of
wearing.
Blood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stones of Blood.
And maybe because I enjoyed that one more, it stood out a lot.
Maybe.
I mean, the
You
fact
don't like this one because K9 just practically was melted in this one.
he came close to melted, which I knew the doctor would save him in time.
His
What-
tweets were so funny.
Yeah.
What was most disturbing, even though it ended up being all a ruse, was K9 calling the Shadow dude master. I'm like, no, that's not your master.
It wasn't a ruse initially.
Well, no.
No, he was really being controlled.
Yeah. But then the Doctor got him back under his own...
What'd you think of the Dax and the Doctor shrinking down and
I think...
riding in K9?
I don't know.
I think the Dax character is weird because
I
he's
didn't
there and he's
like him.
like
I
being
didn't trust him.
subservient to the Shadow, right? And I thought the same thing. I thought, this guy's kind of shady. I don't know that this is... But they never portray him as somebody that's like there to double cross or... I mean,
Yeah.
he really was he was a school chum with the Doctor, wasn't he?
He was a school child.
That's
In
what he
fact,
said.
when he first shows up, he calls him Theta.
That's right. Well, it's because his nickname was Sigma Theta in school.
Well, and he says something... so it tweeted out that the Doctor's not his... The Doctor got his doctorate. It's not his name. It's his actual title.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a great little play on that when he keeps calling him Theta, and the Doctor looks and he goes, "Doctor." Oh, I'm sorry. No, no offense, none taken. Okay,
Yeah.
but they did make it official. The problem, I don't know. Wouldn't it be cool if Dax showed back up at on the fields of whatever, and because he knows the Doctor's name, it's Theta.
That wasn't a nickname. That's his actual name.
That's his real name.
It's Sigma Theta.
Sig-
Or is it Sigma Theta? Is it
Theta
Theta
Sigma.
Yeah, Theta Sigma.
What if all Gallifreyans and Time Lords have...
We got to do something about your mic, dude.
Am I back?
Oh, you're back.
Okay.
Sometimes Keith leaves us because his mic isn't thing. Whoopee.
What if all Gallifreyans or Time Lords have frat house sounding names? All Greek letters and...
I just really like the idea of the Doctor with a Gallifreyan rugby shirt that says Theta Sigma on the back.
I want to meet the Gallifreyan
It
Time
is.
Lord that's name is Sci-Fi.
I want to see William Hartnell running across a field.
I think it's sci-pi, not sci-fi. I think the H is silent.
You say tomato.
Here's
I've always seen it Sci-Fi.
for those of you who didn't join us on Friday Night, here's just a few of Keith's. I'm so concerned about K9. Oh no,
I would have
fear,
loved to have been here too, by the way.
Oh no, I fear K9 has been hacked. I feel bad for K9 always lagging behind.
He was always lagging behind.
Not so great, is he, Keith?
Hey, it's not... R2 lags behind. R2 is awesome.
K9 got there before the Doctor.
R2 can also
good dog.
navigate stairs.
No, K9, that is not your master. Here's one for you. Holy crap, Vortex Glen Ultimate Wet Dream, 5 Romanas.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot about that.
Your master is the Doctor, not the Shadow, K9. He's screaming at the TV at this point.
I am. Sarah's fallen asleep. She's gone to bed. I'm sitting here watching Losing K9 to the Shadow, and
I did enjoy your Astra, you are my density.
Oh.
I mean Destiny.
I kept referring to it as Destiny.
Yeah, he was not happy. With the
Poor K9 gets treated so poorly so many times.
But this was another really good K9 episode, though.
It ended up being, yes.
Yeah, it does.
But
It does.
he had his sad moments, just like Stones of Blood, where he's disassembled.
Yeah, so this one he really gets a sad moment because
He gets
yeah,
hacked
yeah.
and hijacked, and
He rode that conveyor belt.
I knew the Doctor
not,
would say
not
that.
unlike Woody and Buzz at the end of Toy Story 3.
right. With the glowing red coming closer and closer.
He just didn't have anybody to hold his hand.
I knew the Doctor would save him in time.
You hoped the Doctor would save him that time.
I knew in my heart.
You knew because we'd watched Destiny of the Daleks out of order, and he's in that episode. So.
And K9 and Company.
All right, I'm chomping at the bit to talk about the Winnie River song. So let's finish up Armageddon.
Here's a couple of things that I've got on Armageddon Factor. I like the setup. I think it's another fine episode, although the two planets at war with each other, it's really been done. I mean, this is not a new sci-fi convention. This is a fairly established one, especially in Doctor Who. We've seen it in Genesis of the Daleks. We've seen it in Destiny of the Daleks, where we've had these two opposing forces just beating on each other.
Well, and
in this case,
it's really a manufactured war, too.
It is a manufactured war. But in this case, we've got not just a, wow, the war's going badly. you are on the cusp of being defeated. I mean, this is the last guy. When they go into battle, and the Marshal's so proud of his battle fleet, who's been flying around lost for weeks.
Yeah.
And then they finally find the Xeon battle fleet, and there's only 6 ships. And the Doctor even comments, "Are you crazy? What do you hope to accomplish here?" That coupled with the complete ineptitude of the guards. What was up with the guard at the beginning? The guy who took Astra under orders to the K block with the radiation, and everything was when he was on the comm. Yes, okay. Yes, sir. I'll tell her.
Yeah.
All right. Please, Princess, you have to go. I'm only following her. The guy showed no emotion whatsoever. I didn't remember this at all.
That had to be somebody on the set's brother-in-law that happened to wander in one day.
And I mean, no disrespect to the guy, but I thought he was a robot. That's how
androids in
there's
this?
androids in this one.
I couldn't remember the beginning of this, and I'm like, I don't remember there being androids in this one, but maybe I've got it confused with the other one. Because I remember Astra being a duplicate? No. Okay. Well, she was Romana. Okay. So that guy just, yes, no, okay. And then he died, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure he showed up as another guard at some point. But the complete inaptitude of the guards, the complete inaptitude of the ships, not since the Dominators have we seen a space fleet
so weak.
This bad off. And I feel bad for Princess Astra trying to moralize and lead her people, because there ain't much there.
How much of Princess Astra was Princess Leia? Even
very
almost
much.
down to the costume.
Very much.
Yeah, I see some parallels there.
Although Mary Tam almost had more of a... Romana had more of a Leia outfit in this one. With her boots. Don't tell me you didn't notice.
Oh, she looked good. She looks good. Mary Tam looks good in every episode.
She does.
Even in the Joker outfit.
Mel agrees with you.
Mel agrees. Amen.
We'll get there.
Romana 2 is just
Whoops,
a little
what
too
did I just
mousy.
click? Get off of there. Here's something that I thought was very interesting. The Shadow. I thought the Shadow was actually a very good villain for Doctor
Yeah,
Who.
I think so too.
You know what it reminded me of?
What did it remind you of?
The Master. I almost thought this was the Master until they revealed it.
Could have been, really.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the way he looked.
This so could have been a Master episode.
It looked like Deadly Assassin Master almost.
and then the Master being manipulated by the Black Guardian.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool.
Well, except Master's technically still dead.
Well,
Missing in action.
missing
at
in
this point.
action. There you go. Yeah.
He's got I didn't realize this. There's a fun documentary on the bonus features disc for this about rogue Time Lords, and there's a line from Time and the Ronnie when the Master says, somebody says, "I thought you were dead," and the Master replies, "I'm invincible. The entire universe knows this by now." And it's like, oh, God, I love Anthony. But I thought the Shadow was one of those that. He had the raspy, scary voice going on, and fairly effective makeup and everything. I wish they had done a little more with him, because
Well, it's such a late.
It's such a late
introduction.
Yeah, development.
We spent 3 or 4 episodes dealing with
4. He's not introduced until the fourth
fifth.
one. Yeah,
Fourth or
fifth
fifth.
one. Yeah,
I
well,
think
the
it's-
end
I
of
think
the
it's
fourth.
5, maybe the end of 4.
Might be the end of 4.
But I mean, we spend 4 episodes dealing with the war, which again we've seen that. Let's do something.
The war aspect wasn't very interesting.
Well,
No, it
it's
really
like
the
wasn't.
desperation was a bit, but that was
It's like
about
they're
it.
trying to pull they're trying to set it up as though it's something else, and then introduce this element later, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, this isn't not everything's all it seems at this point.
Yeah, well, and I'll be honest, Drax
Drax, that was his name.
Drax really set my nerves on edge initially. When
Well-
he first shows up, the writer in me is screaming. This is the
Beware.
5th act of the show.
Yeah.
You do not introduce a new character at the 5th
Beware.
act, especially one that's not going to be relevant. He turned out to be a fairly cool character.
Yeah. Well,
And
the other thing that makes you suspicious of Drax is the fact that when they've concocted this plan, and he comes in with this thing he's been developing, this shrink ray,
yeah.
and he zaps the Doctor instead of the Shadow, and then that was the cliffhanger, and you're like, oh, maybe he is a bad guy. And then they come back and then you find out, well, he just shrunk the Doctor in accident. It wasn't part of the plan.
Well, in his mind, that was
Yeah,
part
that
of the
was
plan.
what. That's how he. Yeah, that's right. That's how
All right.
he understood.
We're
how
tiny.
It was.
Correct. We can
Well, because he
escape now.
shrinks himself. Yeah. So you at that point you're initially thinking, uh-oh, he's really working for the Shadow. He really isn't. He is a real rogue Time Lord in some sense. And
He was not mentioned on the documentary.
oh yeah, well because he doesn't end up being a rogue Time Lord, I suppose. But yeah, so.
You, by the way, can't watch that documentary because there's spoilers.
Okay.
But yeah, I just like I said, you don't introduce a character this late in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't do it. You should have all your pieces on the board at this point. Everybody should be established, and there's no time for this.
Again, somebody's brother-in-law showed up to visit one day, and they said, "Hey, would you like a part?" And he actually could act.
Well, that was the funny thing is that I came to really like Drax.
Yeah,
I don't
I
remember
do too.
him at all
Yeah.
from my. There are certain, the memory cheats.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things I do remember vividly as a kid. I remember the Shadow because he was scary. I remember K9 and some bad things happening to K9, but I also remember K9 being the hero. I'd forgotten about the Doctor being shrunk.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the fake key, and I remember the time loop. That's the one overriding thing that I remember from this. I remember John Woodvine going, "Fire! Fire!" And the computer countdown when they showed us all 10 seconds over and over
Yes,
and over.
the
And
whole
it's like,
10 seconds.
That
every
was the little
time.
drag out.
editing, guys.
You could have easily cut this down to 5 episodes and you cut out
But really,
cut the time down to
that's
3
the problem
seconds or something.
with Armageddon Factor is, we've got if we follow the established pattern, you've got 4 episodes to tell the story of the 6th segment, and 2 left over that you could be using to deal with the struggle between the White and Black Guardian.
Oh, yeah,
now
they
that we've
could
got
have
the segments. They
expanded
really
that
could
so
have
much.
done that. I mean, there was so much put. And correct me if I'm wrong. This is the first time Doctor Who really went for a cohesive overall plot.
Yeah,
right?
this is
because some of the early ones ran into each other.
Yeah, they
but
run
then-
into each other, but it wasn't
still
an
separate.
entire season that was built around one continuing story arc, which is
So it's fitting in a way that we're reviewing
Oh,
this
absolutely.
now with the end
so.
of season 6.
Yeah, I think so.
This is really the first attempt of it, and obviously mixed results. Some of the individual stories work. I personally, as much as I love the concept of the Key to Time, I don't think it works as a season-long plot.
I would have to agree, especially seeing the resolution of it. If they had explored it like they could have, it would have worked. But they just didn't explore it, and the key, which was such a big deal these past 6 stories, is eliminated in less than a minute.
Another thing that I thought, when Tom Baker turns on his angry face, and he's got the, I can control everything, I can do everything, I have all the power in the universe, and you can't stop me, does that concern you? Of course, well, me too. And then he immediately drops it because it's not who the Doctor is. Again, it's a funny moment, but I almost think it would be
More interesting.
a little more interesting if he was struggling against it.
Well, it would
Maybe that makes him
it
too
would
human,
certainly
but-
be more 10 and 11, more like them in
Yeah.
the sense that he has tempted the power that he wields a bit, and I could see that. I could see that would absolutely. I think it would be very cool to explore that just a tad more.
Just a tiny, as opposed to dropping it as easily as he does.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets to that point and then Romana has to slap him and he snaps out of it. What'd you do that for? I mean, that would have been a good way too. But just to drop it the way he did, don't get me wrong, it overemphasizes how cool Tom Baker's Doctor is.
I agree.
But I think it was a missed storytelling opportunity. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have anything else. I had a whole list of things, but I really...
Let's do Wedding River Song.
Glenn is
Because while I like to have Armageddon Factor, I can't chump it much.
being at the bits to move on to the Wedding of River Song.
So that concludes the Key to Time.
That's
Now,
it.
I will say this for the whole concept of the Key to Time. I have not heard them. I just discovered there are not 1, but 2. Are there 3?
I think it's 3.
Big Finish Audios that deal with
I think
it.
I read that there are 3 of them.
Because there's three stories that are done with Peter Davidson in the quest for the Key to Time, and I believe there's another trilogy with Sylvester McCoy
Oh, is there? Okay.
that goes after it. But I didn't know there was a third one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. There's two. No, I was saying there's
2 overall story arcs.
Okay, yeah, they're 3 and 3.
I think it's
knew
3
of the
and 3.
Davisons 3. That's what I was saying.
Oh,
There
okay.
are three more stories involving the key to time in Peter Davison's era. I didn't know about Sylvester McCoy. That's why I thought you were going.
Oh,
with.
okay, yeah.
I thought you were saying there were 2 more. There were 2 other stories to the key to time. I'm saying no. There's actually 3. But you're saying there's 3 and 3. So there's 2 different.
Two more sagas.
I see. Okay, I didn't know that
Which
about McCoy.
brings up an interesting problem in a way, is that talk about going back to the well. I mean, if this is something that is so monumentally powerful, the pieces have never been assembled in millennia, and then the Doctor's tasked to go get it, it seems a little odd that he would be tasked twice more to go get it.
Yeah.
But I haven't listened to those stories yet. They're on my horizon. I will get to them at some point, and we'll certainly review them when we get to them. But hopefully they're done better. Maybe that's why. Maybe the guys at Big Finish went, you know what was a missed opportunity? Key to time. We should redo that.
Maybe that's what they've done then.
Possibly.
So,
Our first bit of feedback about the Wedding of River Song.
spoilers ahead if you have not seen it, which we've
you
been
have not
lax
seen it.
on.
And we've given you a few extra days to chances to get it. So even by this time this comes out, the Australian viewers will be
I've
very
seen
close
it.
to have seen
We've
it.
been
Well,
lax
no.
of late in the
Yeah.
second half of the season with just launching into things.
Well,
So,
you know,
there's your spoiler warning.
people
Don't
do
say we didn't do
people
it.
should understand that if if it's aired here, we're going to review it.
That's right. Our first bit comes from Dr. Phil, or Dr. Philip. Protectors and, oh, you know the rest. Just a quick email on the Wedding of River Song. Still too new to have fully digested it, but I want to make a few comments. Not sure if I thought this reset button worked, but the ending scene did have a Man on the Run, Dark Knight sort of ending. Everything in the last less minutes in the Headless Monk's Indiana Jones Last Crusade sort of crypt was near perfection, with the Doctor going a bit more underground. I was disappointed ever so slightly that the out of order meeting of the pawns, Impossible Astronaut, and leaving the God Complex was a missed opportunity, especially with all the history at once sort of thing. One thing that got me punching the air was the sequence. Over and over was the brig. It was all I hoped for, that the brig would be the one the Doctor would have to see before he dies. It's obvious that the Doctor can't go on with his longest running friend having had time catch up with him. Vader, the circle is now complete. The brig was said to have died in bed in Battlefield, and confirmed it here. It was important, at least to me, that Nicholas Courtney finally got a dedication of sorts. Mm-hmm. That's what I had been waiting for, and all the happier for it. Anyways, keep up the great show, gentlemen. All the best. Most sincerely yours, Philip.
As always, we thank you, Phil, for the kind words. And I forgot to mention in Armageddon Factor the use of the Gothic music. I made special note of that when I was watching it. I wanted to talk about it, and we didn't now, so I'll deal with that off air with Phil.
Our next bit comes from Holly in Wisconsin. The second half of her email dealt with the Wedding of River Song.
And again, hi, Holly. She writes, okay, now into my thoughts about the Wedding of River Song. The episode moved pretty fast. Very interesting with how all the timelines kind of merged and time stopped when River decided not to kill the Doctor in Utah. Loved the nod to the brig in this episode. Nice to know the Doctor would have asked him for help on this. Loved his comment as well about trying to avoid time and that he'd go back and help Rose with her homework and go to all of Jack's stag parties. Did not see that bit with the Doctor taking over the Tesselecta body at all. In a way, nicely played. Now we all know the reason why behind the eye patches. Loved Amy in this episode. Good for her with Madam K. She shouldn't feel sorry about what she did at all. The scene with Amy and River talking about her guilt and then what the Doctor actually told River was great. The Doctor lies indeed. Now that makes me wonder, what did River actually whisper in the Doctor's ear when she was first introduced in the Silence in the Library / Forest of the Dead two-parter? Was it really his actual name? Or did River take over a test-selected body as well, and the Doctor lied to Donna and said what River whispered was his real name? I could be way off base. Not so sure what to think of the reveal of the whole question thing. Unless Moffat's going to twist that around come next series. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this episode. Holly from Wisconsin. I definitely feel like we got more questions.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think we got a lot of answers.
I think we got a lot of answers.
We got a
for
lot
this
of answers.
season.
But we weren't left with a huge amount of questions, I thought.
It's not like we got left with a lost amount of questions.
I think they're building on that.
True.
We'll get to it. Keep going.
I wanted to talk real quick about Holly's comments about Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. That bit on Doctor Who Confidential that I watched was River's timeline.
It's called River's Story.
It's her life narrated by Alex Kingston as River Song. Starts with her birth, goes to her death. Rewatching the scenes from Forest of the Dead and Silence in the Library, the Doctor's conviction, even when no one else is around, that she said his name, I had no doubt in my mind that she said his name in his ear. That's my 2 cents on it.
I think he'll still find it out. Especially if, in fact, the question in plain sight, the question that should never be asked, Doctor Who, if that's in fact what it is, and because Tennant tells her in that episode, there's only one instance I would ever tell anybody my name.
Yeah.
So, and we also decided after watching the River Song story that we're probably going to need to fold those back in to our season 4 discussion, just so we can go back and touch on the River Song parts.
It's going to be important.
Okay.
There's a name drop in that episode.
There's a pretty big name. She talks in this one. I just climbed out of the blah blah blah, the ship that crashes.
Pyvantian.
The Buzz Light.
And they name drop that in Silence of the Library when she asked the Doctor, "Have we gotten to the Byzantium yet?" And both Keith and I went, "Ooh, we'd forgotten all about that was in there." So,
yeah, no, I didn't.
Which is Silence of the Library,
yeah,
or which is In the Time of Angels.
Yeah, no, I knew that. That's the whole thing is about. It was that was that ship. That was
right.
the name of that ship. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry.
I never knew.
No,
that
I knew they
until
name
now.
dropped it, but they were just name dropping to season 5, not back to Science in the Library and Forest of the Dead.
No,
they name dropped forward.
In Forest of the Dead, she name drops Byzantium, which doesn't show up until season 5.
Oh, okay, I didn't catch that.
It's a name drop forward.
Yeah, that's
so.
Moffat's had this planned out from the beginning, so that doesn't surprise me.
I want to go back and see what other sort of nuggets that were in those 2 episodes that we might have overlooked.
Okay.
Anyway,
I've always said that I want to go watch all of this in reverse now, so that I see River, which obviously
this video is
Confidential
awesome.
does it anyway.
Really
that's
good
that.
job.
I've always said I want to go watch those episodes in reverse now, so that I get the story in the right direction.
that's the thing
from
is
River's perspective.
Watching the River story, I don't know that they're necessarily exactly in reverse. They kind of make
start with her birth.
Well, yeah, I mean, but the video starts with birth, up through meeting the Doctor, up through being kidnapped, blah 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 blah, and
after that, it starts to be reversed.
Well, it still is chronologically forward for her up to a point, and then she starts skipping back to earlier episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
there's the opportunity of other events.
Oh yeah, there's definitely a hole there for
stories
other stuff to happen
in between the episodes.
Yeah.
But
at any rate.
Our last bit of feedback comes from Alex Smith, and he says, "Hi guys, Alex here. Just thought I would drop by and give you my thoughts on the wedding of River Song. The ceremony left a little to be desired, but talk about a reception. One thing I absolutely have to talk about is the tribute to the Brigadier. Time catches up with all of us, Doctor," says Dorian, "but the Doctor is adamant that Time's never laid a finger on him. And that's when he makes the phone call. That's when we learn how the Brigadier passed away, peacefully, always pouring an extra brandy in case the Doctor ever came around. In that moment, the Doctor truly realizes how time can catch up with the time traveler. It does so through the people he leaves behind. All the Doctor has to say is it's time, and we know that this new revelation has shaken him to the core. and finally, he's ready to die. What makes this so beautiful was the way that the Doctor never voiced his realization. He keeps quiet, mumbling out a goodbye to the nursing home worker and shaking his head slightly. Matt Smith portrays everything running through the Doctor's head at that moment through just his expression, and I think that scene and this episode in general will be looked back on as a high point in his time as the Doctor. And of course, though I'm sad to see him go, I think it's only right that the Brigadier, and by extension Nicholas Courtney, was given such a poignant, touching moment of goodbye. All in all, I would say that particular scene is up there as one of my favorite Doctor Who moments. A couple other quick asides. The scene with live chess was a great example of how Moffat is able to set up a whole story, backdrop, context, drama in under 60 seconds. He has many talents as a writer, but I think his ability to cram a lot of information into a short space of time without confusing the viewer is his most extraordinary one. On another note, I would totally watch live chess if it became a spectator sport.
Ditto.
The earlier scenes of the Doctor
Wait,
going...
isn't that reality competition TV?
It would be.
Didn't say I would watch it on TV. I said I would watch it. I would pay to get into an illegal Fight Club live chess match.
It did have kind of an illegal feel to it,
Didn't it?
It's funny because I just finished The Hunger Games today, and it was like...
Wasn't that a great?
Yeah, it's a great book, but it's nothing like that. But it flashed to me like, oh, that's kind of Hunger Games-esque, you know, where you're playing a game where your life's on the line. And anyway, sorry.
It's Survivor with a twist.
with a twist. That would make... I would watch Survivor if the people died if they failed.
No, that's just morbid. I can't believe you said that.
I was joking, but...
Keith, you know somewhere there's a Hollywood producer that's been pushing this
I'm
for
sure.
a long time.
Well, they saw the episode of Doctor Who.
Let's televise.
That's right.
You know. No, I'm not even going to go there.
Not a Boomtown. What was the
See, the
long game? No,
the penultimate
yeah, whatever the penultimate episode
of season 1.
What was the second to last episode of season 1, series 1?
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. No. What the hell was it called?
Wasn't it Bad Wolf? Or was that the finale?
That's the third one from the end. It's Bad Wolf. Or is it? Long Game is the early one.
Was it Boomtown?
Boomtown, Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways. You're right.
Okay.
It's Bad Wolf.
Hey, I was right.
Anyway.
Wow, how did the novice get one?
Do I get upgraded now?
We're slipping. I don't know.
May have to knight him again.
We're going to have to give you a quiz. What was the name of the penultimate episode of season 1?
Bad Wolf.
Oh, he's pretty good.
Wow, he is good. He got it twice.
You can't confuse me.
We're going to test you again at the end of the show, see if you can get it a third time.
Back to Alex's email.
Yes,
The
please.
early scenes of the Doctor going around in his coat and his Stetson, gathering information, in general being dark and dangerous, have had me set on the idea of companionless season 7. I really want some solo 11th Doctor adventures. How cool is that with him in the Dalek in the beginning? Oh.
Again, Stephen Moffat lies.
Moffat lies.
Now that we know that the Doctor is cheated death, a lot of people have been complaining about the Tesselecta's action in the Impossible Astronaut. While in Let's Kill Hitler, the Tesselecta moves very robotically and emotionlessly, in the Impossible Astronaut, the Doctor Tesselecta is as animated and filled with life as ever. However, I think that is easily explained by the fact that the Doctor was at the controls of the Tesselecta in the Impossible Astronaut. It is essentially a time machine after all, and he knows how to fly time machines better than any of the Tesselecta's crew, I reckon. Oh, and I hope you...
I don't know. He leaves the parking brake on.
Very true. Oh, and I hope you enjoyed your vacation, Glenn. Smiley face. Now, I'm going to take my personal mammoth back to the Buckingham Senates from the Holy Roman Emperor Alex. P.S. I saw your email to Doctor Who, or to Reincarnated, and loved the idea. I love the sound of that story idea you're playing with. Keep me posted. I can't wait to hear more about it.
When did he send this?
It would have been October 3rd.
Was it? When was it?
Monday.
When was it he tweeted to us? I think it was him that tweeted when we were talking
It was Sunday.
about... Was Sunday about the vacation, about why we
no,
kept
I
making
didn't see
jokes
that.
about holiday, and
Yeah.
we had to explain to him. Was it Alex that tweeted that?
I don't remember if it was Alex or Mark.
Somebody
that asked.
did. Yeah, ask about why we kept making jokes about
What-
holiday.
what
Why,
is it called
what's
in the States?
What's the inside joke there? And we said, well, it's actually called vacation here. We don't
I didn't
take
see that
holidays,
tweet.
we take vacations. And that holidays are typically reserved for actual event days like Christmas, New
Yeah.
Year's. So I wonder if that's why I hope you had fun on your vacation smiley face. I think that's where that's from. So.
Yeah.
I did, Alex. It was a blast.
He went and found a graveyard.
I did. I went and looked at an old American outlaw's tombstone.
Glenn, you're chomping at the bit to start talk about this.
Absolutely love this episode. Now, I felt like it didn't answer every discombobulated problem I had with Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. But
What do you think was lingering?
Why did the TARDIS blow up? Let's go back to that one.
well,
That's season 5.
I
yeah,
want to know.
they didn't answer that. But
I don't think they ever will at this point.
Oh, he better.
It was a
Calling you out, Moffat.
It was a
I think I
MacGuffin.
wanted a little more Canton.
Canton would have been cool to see.
Because
Especially in the alternate
because
universe.
Canton has to be there at the end. It's almost like, I guess maybe that's part of his farewell tour, maybe because he's on this farewell tour,
I would have loved to see
which
more
we
of the
don't get a lot.
farewell
Yeah,
tour-
we don't get to
tour.
see a
That
lot
would
of
have been
that.
awesome.
But obviously, Craig last week was part of that farewell
Yeah.
tour.
It's a weak point, and I have to tread very carefully. I loved this episode.
I think we all agree.
Yeah.
We all
Yeah.
did.
We all. I think we all loved it. There are a number of things that I could nitpick very, very heavily on that I think the episode trips up on. One of which is Dorian's asking him excuse me, not Dorian. Churchill asked him, "Why would you do that? Why would you invite your friends to your death? Because who else would you have at your side?" Totally buy that for River and the Pawns. Why was Canton there?
Yeah, exactly.
I
thought the same thing.
Unless
Yeah.
Canton, you needed to have established that he had a bigger part in this relationship. Otherwise, it's just a really cool gimmick for Impossible Astronaut Day of the Moon that this guy's the same guy. He didn't bring anything to the party other than a can of gasoline.
I would agree.
I think
Exactly,
that was
yeah.
his entire purpose, was to bring the gasoline.
You couldn't have found anybody else on Earth. The Doctor couldn't have found of any. He
Well,
couldn't have
the
invited
Doctor
Sarah
drove there.
Jane.
The Doctor
He
knew.
couldn't have invited. I mean, if you're going to go that
But
route,
Canton-
Yeah.
But
I mean, think
the
about
past can't. Okay, I'm trying to put this in the right perspective. Phrasing: the present day Canton, the old man Canton. The Doctor obviously visited him also, and saying, "I'm gonna die at this lakeside. You have to go." And
No, he didn't.
How did Canton know?
it. He got
that's
he
the
got
Doctor?
an
got a letter.
invitation. He got a letter.
That said, "Be here, bring gasoline." No, that had to have been what Canton's letter said.
But how did he know? Yeah, that's the Doctor. How did he know that? Yeah, he's dead.
He could have included anything in that letter that said, remember that time we were in the Area 51 and you put me in the thing? This is me. Come to the... Because not everybody would know the ins and outs of what they talked about in that room. There are any number of things he could have used to convince him.
Oh, yeah.
The bottom line is he came, but it falls apart
and I
under the
think all
pretense
that time
of
in
you
the-
invite your friends to your funeral.
Yeah.
I could see them becoming closer friends that while he was in Area 51.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I hope...
That was like 2 months.
I hope Canton maybe Canton's the full-time companion for Matt Smith's third season. I'd be all over that.
That would be awesome.
And that would totally justify and fix this. As it's left right now, it's not.
Yeah. Agreed.
While
what-
watching the episode, I honestly didn't think about Canton.
Yeah. Well,
I always think
watch
about
well
Canton.
enough. No, it's Patrick. Come on. The
Glenn made a firefly.
one of the
That's
other
awesome.
one of the other things that they tried to fix this with a throwaway line, but the fact that Dorian knew all of this information back when he's
And didn't tell the
yeah
Doctor.
back when they're at
Demon's Run.
Demon's
Run.
Run. I almost said Devil's Run. Demon's Run, before he's decapitated. And the throwaway line that they try to do to fix it, well, why didn't you tell me this then? And he says, well, it was a
It was a busy
a
day.
it was a busy day.
I got
and I got
decapitated.
decapitated. They made light of it and fun of it. But I too thought the same thing. I thought, you had all of this information. yet you blindly went along with the Doctor because you owed him a favor.
I think that's a lot of Dorian's character. He won't give up information unless he's forced to.
Yeah,
I've gotten that impression from day one.
I totally buy that as a character.
He's a total smuggler. He's essentially a gangster. Why would he give up this information to anybody?
Oh, I don't.
Not for free.
He's not a gangster. He's more of a smuggler mercenary.
He doesn't hang out with the Doctor because he likes the Doctor.
Maybe.
I don't think he's a mobster either.
I got a mob.
He's an information broker.
He's an information broker.
He's an information
not a
broker.
mobster. Yeah.
Okay.
He doesn't hang out with the Doctor because he likes the Doctor. He hangs out with the Doctor because he owes him a favor. And when the Doctor comes to him and to collect, he's not thrilled with doing it.
He doesn't want to go.
He doesn't want to go, but he has to pay off that debt. But that debt only goes so far.
Yeah, but Dorian is also helping the Doctor piece together this mystery of
I think
River's song, and so
I think it's that partially.
A lot of things could have been answered a lot earlier and easier.
Dorian wasn't paid for that. Dorian was paid to answer the River Song question. Dorian was not paid to answer anything.
Then
about
I don't
the
believe
fall
that
of the
Dorian
Silence.
should have been giving up as much information as he was.
At that point, Dorian has
well.
nothing left to lose, too.
Well, the
that's
Doctor
neither here nor there.
The Doctor shows up on your doorstep and you're head in the box. What are you gonna do?
Moffat felt the necessity to put a throwaway line in there to explain it. So, that's all he felt it needed. So I don't think you're. I'm not subscribing to your theories because I think Moffat realized that I've got to just fix this quick, and he did. Or he could have used what you guys just explained in the same way in a short line, and he didn't go that route. So
he could have.
He could have. But
I agree.
He didn't,
I agree with you that it was a throwaway line, and I agree with you
so
that
I can't buy the.
This is one of the many myriad of things that there's so. This almost feels like a Douglas Adams. There are so many ideas thrown at us in this episode, and some of them work and some of them don't. That I think maybe Moffat didn't have it all thought through either. And I hate to say that because I've been championing the guy from day one.
I have felt this the entire way. I think he has had an outline.
He's been telegraphing us.
But he's had an outline of how he wants this to go, and I think he's had this story formulated in his head. I think he's just taken chances with how he was going to tell the story.
Yeah,
well, that's what's happened all along.
I would agree with that because as a showrunner and a writer, you can't set things in stone, or else you're going to write yourself in the corner.
No,
you have to have ideas and an end goal.
And it's also true as a writer. Maybe he did. Maybe he had it written where Dorian said, "You didn't pay me for that information. You only got so much. You got this." And then he looked at it and decided it made Dorian sound too.
It made him less likable.
Made him less likable.
Okay,
but that's just it. Dorian is a likable character. Despite his flaws, he's that old fat blue guy.
But
and,
I'm sorry.
Even when he's stupid enough to go running off to the headless
you're
monks.
arguing against your point even more so now.
Well,
yeah,
as a writer,
yeah,
I have done things that don't make sense but sound better. So I can forgive him that.
I don't want to dwell on that because this
is a fantastic.
You guys have rationalized that in your head. You haven't convinced me of it. But
no,
and
we won't.
Difference. Yeah.
We really won't.
Honestly, that didn't bother me either.
Well, one of the other things, and we dwelled on that for far too long. Now I've forgotten my other point, but. What I had been spoiled on, by the way, of the...
Oh, yeah, what was in the...
It was the shot of Churchill talking to the Silurian doctor, and the fact that I knew something...
Meredith Vieira was in that shot.
Right, just preceding that. And I knew that something... That time had gone wonky and something was wrong because they were talking... She makes that comment about Supreme Emperor Churchill or whatever... in there, and I thought, okay, we're going to get to a point where something that's happened in time has been screwed up, or something isn't. So I knew that was coming, and that's what spoiled for me. Fortunately, beyond that, nothing else really got spoiled. So that was good, and that was that started out that episode. So that wasn't such a
how awesome was seeing Dickens again.
Oh, that was neat. I loved that, and it's the same actor and everything. That
they went so far back. Oh, that was so cool.
I was hoping for more cameos like that.
That would be really cool.
Because we got Dickens, which was awesome. We got the Silurian from last year's season 5, the Doctor.
Right. We got Churchill
from season 5.
And that's about it.
See, I'd have liked to have seen Shakespeare come back. I mean, I would have liked to have seen all of the period
That would have been really
episodes that we've done.
Cool. Well, we
Famous
did see a
people.
Roman. It wasn't
Yeah, we
Rory.
did.
It was a Roman.
Roman. It would have been nice to have had a little more,
They made comments about Cleopatra and
Yeah.
a little more cohesion.
Yes.
With the time period. I mean,
Well, I mean, you look at the idea, and it doesn't quite make sense, anyways.
yeah, all of time is unfolding at the same time.
Yeah, all the time is happening at once. If time is unraveling and stopped, wouldn't the entire world, the entire universe, just literally stop and be on pause? Why would it all start happening at once? Watching
more
it
visually.
I know.
very visually
I
cool.
understand why they did it, and as a sci-fi fan, I can suspend disbelief and let it go.
Yeah.
As a hard sci-fi fan, it doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
Here's a problem I have.
I didn't have a problem with it until I read a
in
review of it.
in any sci-fi where time gets screwed up and we've skewed into this alternate tangent, it's always supposed to be bad. Realistically, aside from the fact that time was disintegrating and going to eventually obliterate everything, alternate timeline was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have had a problem living that. We've got trains and car balloons, and yeah, pterodactyls in the park is a little pesky, but I mean, for Pete's sake, Winston Churchill's the Holy Roman Emperor. I'm okay with this. I mean, this did not look like a bad world to live in. This really,
it was a very neat world.
it was
very
a
visual
very neat
world.
world, very visually cool, very
Area 52 in the
Yeah.
pyramids.
I mean, I wonder how that happened. How did the U.S. manage to get Egypt? But yeah, we took it.
Well, River made comments about a lot of hallucinogenic lipstick.
Lipstick on where'd you get this set up? A hallucinogenic lipstick on Cleopatra. But that doesn't explain why it's got an American flag on it. It's Area 52. What does River have to do with the American
Well,
government?
that would have been a perfect opportunity to drop Canton back in here
Yeah.
Good call.
because he works for the U.S. government. And
He could have been in that room.
Absolutely. Anyway,
missed opportunity there. But
How funny is it that when we reviewed the season 5 finale, you guys and we all joked that the season finales keep getting bigger and bigger, and this past year, all of reality was threatened. What's next? Time.
Yeah.
We joked
Yeah,
about that,
exactly.
and that's what
ends up
happened.
happening.
and how funny is it that Moffat telegraphed this in a Red Nose Day special?
Yeah.
Yeah, time and space.
Time,
yeah.
space, and time.
Space and time, yes. Yeah.
There it is.
Oh,
it's all laid out right there in that 8-minute block.
That's absolutely right. God, but there was a number of things that I absolutely loved about this. I didn't like the other. It just came to me. The other thing I didn't. This was very Douglas Adams, but didn't work because this didn't feel Douglas Adams to me. Was the carnivorous skulls? That was
Yeah.
dispatching the guy.
Him
that-
falling into the pit of skulls was very, very.
Cheesy.
It was cheap.
felt
It was
almost
a
classic.
It was a bad effect,
No, it didn't
and it was
work for
badly
classic.
done. I didn't mind it just from the cool, but it was like, okay, the skulls were going. Nom, 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 nom. They've
Well-
got nowhere to put it. There should have been parts falling through the neck joints.
We
of these things.
you talked about very Douglas Adams things, and I've always thought that the Headless Monks is a very Douglas Adams thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not right in Doctor Who because with the Headless Monks, that's always something that you kind of take as a semi-humorous, but we're going to make it sci-fi type thing. But it doesn't fit in Doctor Who. I've always had a problem with the Headless Monks because it's not possible.
You
It's
have a
not
problem
something
with
that
lightning
works.
swords.
Well,
let's
I do.
call
There's
it
that.
what
But
it
no.
is.
But it's the fact that you can decapitate anybody and then their head survives and their
Magic.
I know.
That's
That's the problem.
That's the problem that he has with it. Is as of yet they haven't explained the science
Right,
behind
yeah.
why that
And
works.
So now we have carnivorous skulls.
They're
why
part of the
why do
silence
skulls
where
that
we
have
might
no
be
body and no
exploring
place
them.
for the things that they're eating to go? Why do they necessarily have to be carnivorous? And why do I mean this? That doesn't work for me. But anyway, that's neither here nor there because, again, a great episode. I had a lot of fun with it. I liked the motives. I liked River's motive, the fact that she loves the Doctor so much that she would, risk time itself in order to keep him from dying and keep everyone happy. The other thing that was beautiful about this is the fact that Stephen Moffat has laid it out there from day one who was in that astronaut suit. And from day one,
Who the little girl was.
yeah, who the little girl was. And number three, the beauty of that is, and I can't remember if we talked about this on the show last week or we talked about it after the show, but I had made the mention about somebody had put it out there that what about the robot ship? What's it called?
The Tesselecta.
Tesselecta. That, we've had these red herrings before. We had the goo or the
flesh.
The flesh, yeah. That they were putting out there as to, hey, wait a minute, maybe he sends a duplicate. Well, they turned around the next season in the second part of this season, and showed us that thing. And I said, what if that's out there too? And maybe this is a red herring to pull back as well. And it ends up being the device that he utilizes, and
I like
which
that
I was fine with.
I was fine with that device too. I liked it much better than if it were a flesh.
Yeah,
Because the flesh wouldn't have made sense.
A flesh would make sense because the doctor wouldn't send somebody else to die for him.
Well,
and
that's what it
would have been.
Fact that,
as much as he built up how real they are.
The beauty of that is the fact that it's the doctor in the
He's still there. He's still
ship,
on the beach.
Yeah,
where
so
he
it is
has to
still
be for this
him.
timeline
Right,
event.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's just not his body that ends up dying. So
Yeah,
now,
which was brilliant.
What causes? There's the other problem. What causes
the
regeneration sequence? Did he somehow manipulate the ship so that it put out energy that would make it look like he was regenerating at that point?
I think he did, knowing that he was going to die.
Does the Tesselecta copy that closely?
Perhaps, because there's a part, I wish I had written it down, but there's a part where he talks about the ship that duplicates down to the very something of its copy or something like that. And so I wondered if maybe that's why the ship is able to start the regeneration process or appear to start the generation. I don't know. So, Sean...
They're yeah, okay.
Sean
Let's
way back.
Since I put it out there that
Let's get this out of the way now.
If you remember, Sean made a prediction of who the little girl was and who was in the astronaut suits and
I get to read
everything way back
in
very
Impossible
early on.
Astronaut.
Yeah, and we've sealed it
that
in
would
an
have
envelope.
been neat, though.
Yeah.
He has written Susan.
That would have been really
very
neat.
cool. That would have been very cool. Yeah, it's something in a way that the doctor leaving her affects something that happens and puts her on this path of having becoming vindictive. That would have been really cool.
Wouldn't it?
That would have been really neat.
And it's still tied in with, especially they kept going back to it this season with all of these stories about family and fathers earning the respect of their sons and offspring.
And you were probably just really getting giddy about
nuts. And then they kept coming back to that astronaut suit with River, and I kept going, no,
I can't hear. No,
I do like the fact that it was beyond River's control, that she couldn't control it, that it was the suit that was doing it.
But I also wonder why they just didn't send an empty suit.
That's another problem. If River can't control it and the suit is that powerful that it's overriding her, why did they need River to begin with?
Which she did eventually override, though, and
she
deplete the energy.
But, and we saw how that turned out.
Well, wait a minute. You forgive me because I've only seen this once because I didn't get to see it until tonight when I got home. So, yeah, I didn't get to watch it this week.
So you're real fresh on it then?
I'm real fresh on it, but unfortunately...
But you're also in that giddy...
and I've only seen it the one time. Now, you guys have the benefit of... Well, I don't know how many times
we watched
it twice together.
You guys have you've had the benefit of watching it twice, but... Madame Kevorkian was... Kavarian. I did it again.
Also applies.
Yes. Madame Kavarian was... had created River to be there. Is it because River has to be there as part of the fixed point?
Maybe
that's why she has to send
the device
her in
that she created will only work with River. I don't see.
I suppose that could be.
I mean, they've had the little girl, but they've also
there.
had the little girl in the suit the whole time. So it kind of lends to what Keith was just saying there.
That it needs River, but if she's regenerated twice, it wouldn't be DNA. Would it be isomorphic?
The DNA is still
then?
the same. It's just your. Well, maybe. I don't know.
I would think isomorphic would be much more specific than DNA.
Perhaps. I don't know.
No, that doesn't work because when Kazaran has a change of heart and it grew 3 sizes that day, he can no longer operate as the Weather Dominator.
That's right.
That's true.
Because he's no longer the Kazaran he was before.
I don't know. I guess this is the other I hate saying this. The other problem.
There are little issues.
There are little
with
issues
this,
with
yeah.
it. We're dealing with a fixed point. Now, the other big fixed point that we can't talk about because Keith hasn't seen
and
that
it's
episode
made reference. Well, no, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't
Sorry.
made reference to. It probably should have
Should have
been,
been, yeah.
because that fixed point gets altered.
Fixes itself.
And we don't have a giant time loop. We don't have all of time unfolding all at once.
No.
And it's like, okay, well, why not? If
Well,
we can change
I
that.
think the
but not-
reason is because the fixed point was not the doctor's death; it was somebody else, and so
In that other-
because the doctor has been the cause and effect of everything up until this point, that's what creates the time lock, essentially. Because number one, he's a time lord, time traveler. The last time that this happened, that particular person was not a time lord, was not a time traveler. I don't know. That's the only way I can kind of. I know where you're going with that.
I suppose it's also true that when Dorian says, why Utah, and Dorian says it's a fixed place, it's that much easier to create.
It's a still place.
A still place. It's easier to create a fixed point. This is an artificially fixed point in time.
Yeah.
It's a manufactured one, as opposed to the only other one I can come up with is Pompeii, but we haven't got to that one yet either.
Yeah, Pompeii was the other one that it's been most recently mentioned in.
So I mean, I guess again, I can give him off at the benefit of the
Father's
doubt.
Day is another one. That
well, yeah,
fixed point,
I can give him off at the benefit of the doubt for these that can be worked around as to why this one created such a huge thing. As you mentioned, we're dealing with time travel. We're dealing with a manufactured fixed point that then caused all these problems. I wanted to scream with elation and frustration at the same time when River started explaining, I have to be good at lying. I have to be good to hide these things from you, that I didn't recognize
it was
the suit.
easy fixes.
I didn't recognize this.
But it was easy fixes for things we had problems with.
It does make
I was
sense.
okay with it.
And it does match River's character.
It felt like a cheat.
It felt like a cheat. That was the problem I had.
But it also felt like he dealt with it in a necessary way.
That was the only logical way it could make sense, in my opinion. I mean, she ever since we met her, she can't tell the truth the entire truth to the doctor because it's spoilers and they can't know what's forward in their
she has
timeline.
said that all along. Spoilers. She warns that she can't tell you things.
Yeah,
but then she tells everybody everything.
But she doesn't.
She does.
Like when?
She tells Amy the doctor's still alive.
That's different.
No, it isn't.
That's not.
That's a spoiler.
That's not telling.
That's the mother of all spoilers.
That's not telling a past version of Amy.
She's visiting.
Her future.
She's visiting Amy's future because the doctor's already died.
Yes.
So
it's
she's
not
just
like
revealing. She's just revealing a secret. She's not telling. She's not telling the future.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So
that's where she has to lie.
I do like when she says, "Oh, the first time I met you, you were so young, and you were
you were cute like that."
Yeah, that was hilarious.
No idea I was your daughter. You were cute like that.
Yeah, that's what it was. You had no idea I was your daughter, and you were.
There were so many good references in this episode too.
I did love the fact that when she came back and mentioned the Byzantium, they've got her dressed in the same outfit.
Yeah.
And yes.
Which and then before the whole Brigadier conversation.
Did anybody else cry when that?
I came
very close.
I shed a tear,
and it was,
and I was so fitting, and I was.
I want
so
to
happy
talk just a minute about that. That's everybody's favorite moment in this. It was brilliantly done. Going from manic Matt Smith, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. I'm not going to go down this way.
Well, and the things he mentions,
and the fact that we
awesome.
Go back to Rose.
Let's go see
Jack.
Liz 1, Jack, Rose.
Well, he says I can go do homework with Rose Tyler, or I can go visit Jack's mini stag party.
I can do them all in one.
Do them all in one night. That's what it was. Or
return to Liz 1.
Return to Liz 1. Yeah.
And to go from the elation of that to we didn't know how to get a hold of you. He's gone. And Matt Smith turns on a dime at that news. And the reaction that we get from him, I think, is twofold. Yes, it shows the doctor's all of a sudden overwhelming wham. I mean, gut punch. That not only has he lost the Brigadier, who he truly did consider a friend, even if they didn't come down on the same side of things. Because you got to remember, they had a very... The doctor was all, let's go save the Silurians. And the Brigadier was, yeah, cool, I just blew them up. Yeah. I mean, they definitely had that polarizing effect on each other, but they respected each other. They were friends. They had all that history. And to lose that when he's just given this grand speech about time doesn't touch me, and then realize, yeah, it does, through the people you love, that you will lose everybody at some point.
Yeah.
Just reflected perfectly. I think it goes a step further. I think Matt Smith also, in that moment, projected all of the regret he had as an actor that he will not get to do a scene with the Brigadier.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. It just bled through that moment. And it was so tough to watch. and even Dorian going, why, what happened? And just it's time. Just the final realization that, all right, it comes to us all.
As soon as he picked up the phone and made the phone call, and I realized who he was calling, my heart just sank, and I was like, "Oh,
this isn't going to end well."
Yeah.
Now I hope, and this is just the fanboy in me hoping that, and I didn't look this up, that the gal that answers the phone, I hope that was like a relation to Nick Briggs. I hope that was a daughter or a granddaughter or somebody.
Courtney.
That would have been cool. Or, yeah, Nick Briggs. Nick Courtney, yeah. That would have been really cool.
That would have been really cool.
I don't know
Although
if
Briggs
they did
was in
that,
this episode.
Nick Briggs, well, yeah, he did. He had a voice.
He was the voice of the Dalek.
That's right. Which, Moffat lies.
We're not going to return the Daleks. We're going to sit on them for a
No
while. Oh,
returning
hey, look,
monsters.
a Dalek.
No returning monsters. Oh,
Well,
look, we got Cybermen. And no returning the Daleks. We're going to let them
retire the
Daleks. And we only get the one in the crashed ship.
And it was an old design.
It was.
I noticed
Which really makes me happy. And because I'm working gushing all over these tiny little things. That gives me hope that the Daleks, the redesign, the Skittle Daleks, that's going to be the hierarchy command level
that
Daleks.
makes sense.
And they will still have the rank and file normal guys
I'd be
going
okay
on.
with that.
Okay,
Yeah,
now
I'd be fine
you've
with that.
you've fixed that.
That
I'm
totally
totally
makes
okay
sense.
with
Yeah.
this now that you've got the strategist and the this and the this, and the High Council or whatever is going to be
Yes.
arguing over how to
Yeah, I'm
conduct the
good with
war,
that.
and you've still got regular Daleks out there. Yes,
I got
now
it.
I'm okay with it.
Brilliant
So
idea.
hopefully that's where they go with it. I'm trying to think what else. I mean, there's so much.
Shall we talk about the end, or should we wait?
Well, what about the silence? That we got. I don't know about you guys. I almost feel the silence, with the possible exception of the orphanage, which ranks right up there among the creepiest, scariest Doctor Who stuff ever. The silence in the water tanks, almost scarier than silence out of the water tanks.
Yeah.
So,
There's
well,
something
especially when
about-
they put the hands up on the thing and they
Yeah,
start to crack.
there's just something about them in the water, glaring at people,
Watching the Doctor.
and watching him and getting agitated.
Let me ask you this: when he's with Churchill, and he's relaying the story, when Churchill has the gun and he realizes in it, did you see that coming?
I didn't.
I did not. I honestly,
until he
when
said,
he looks at the
"I
mark on his
fired-"
arm,
I
it didn't even click with me then that the
I thought it might have
silence
been a
was
cut
there.
or something.
Yeah, I
somehow.
wondered what's this.
when
slug
Churchill
doing
picks
on
up
there?
when he first says it,
and he asks him why.
why do you
gun.
have it? And he says, "Well, you're a dangerous man." And he's
No, he says
You're a dangerous person to be around.
no, but
No,
he
but-
says it in the way that I presume you're a dangerous man.
well, okay.
That's
true.
because he's still. Churchill delivers the line as though he's not quite sure why now he has the gun.
Right,
Well, I'm gonna-
but they follow the preceding line is him telling him about how would you keep the ultimate secret
Right.
if I had
You'd
to, I'd
kill the
eliminate the man.
man. Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, why do you have that gun? I mean,
Yeah.
it comes very close
And
on
he
the heels
says,
of
"Well, I
that.
suppose because you're a dangerous man." or
I
something
suppose
like
you're a
that.
dangerous
I don't
man.
know if
Or
suppose
you're
is in there, but
dangerous.
the way it's
You're
delivered.
way it's
dangerous
delivered.
company to have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what it was. Well, you're a dangerous company to have. That's what it was.
It comes right on the heel of that, and then the next scene is, I appear to have fired this,
Yeah. Well,
and I'm thinking to
Well, that's
myself,
the next time we see
because
him.
the well, wasn't it? It was first. It was the doctor saying it smells like
it smells like gunpowder.
gunpowder.
No,
And he
Churchill
says-
even says that.
And then the Churchill
What does that
says,
smell?
"I
It's
appear."
gunpowder.
Yeah, that's right.
I appear to have fired this.
That's what
And
it
I'm
was.
thinking to myself, all of time is unraveling.
That's when I
at
figured it
once.
out. By the way, when he said, "I appear to have fired this," that's when I went, "Oh, they're defending themselves against somebody."
I did.
Yeah.
Must be the silence.
I didn't. I thought all of time was unraveling at the same time. Churchill is going to shoot the doctor
Oh yeah, no,
because he's a
would've been-
dangerous man.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the doctor re-looked at his arm, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
there were four
yeah,
hash
yeah.
marks. And then I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
so yeah." I was oblivious through that up until the reveal.
Did you think they were going? It was just a couple after them until he took the spear. That was a great reveal.
That was fantastic because there's only 4 on this arm, and then he pulls the spear and he looks at this arm and they're all over. And then I thought the same thing. Oh, I know where they're at. And just as they do that, they turn around and look
to the ceiling.
Oh, it was
my thought when I saw his arm was, oh crap!
Another fantastic moment. Not just the fact that Amy runs in there with this army that ends up, rescuing them, but the fact that when he's in I'm assuming, they were in the train. When they're in the train office? Car in her office, and all of the pictures around the charts around, and he's already gone into convincer mode. Got to convince her that, and then he's holding the TARDIS, and he's like, and he realizes, oh, this is the model TARDIS. You know who I am. It's just that whole revelation of she remembers, she knows who he is. That was fantastic.
Far better than psychic paper.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then when he finally gets back to his outfit, and he says, "How do I look?" And she says, "Cool."
Really?
He's like, "Really? No." Which was great.
And I do like the fact that Rory is the captain. And they haven't connected yet. You can tell that Roy likes her because the doctor goes out. You should ask her, really. You should ask her out on a date, really.
Yeah, for texting and scones.
Yeah. Well,
you haven't done this very often, have
no,
you?
he says you really haven't done this very often, have you? And that's when I thought they were going to reveal that Rory remembers who the doctor is. Because that's the conversation earlier on one of the episodes in it where he says, you really don't know how to do it. I mean, Rory, doesn't he make that comment?
Yeah, I think he said that before.
So, I mean, it made me wonder if he was remembering, or actually all along had remembered who
maybe it was just like Churchill trusting the doctor.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just one of those sort of reactions.
So, yeah.
And Dr. Phil, I believe it was last week, called it of the eye patches. We talked about this pre-show. We didn't talk about this.
What they call
on
them?
the
eye drives.
Eye drives. Yeah.
Which I thought was a really neat idea.
Which isn't much.
And thanks for spoiling that, Phil, because once you put that out there, it was like, man, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what they're used for.
When everybody starts popping up in the previews with them, you got River wearing one, then you've got Amy wearing
It's not that they've all turned bad.
Yeah,
it's that they're fine. Okay, cool, and then they were all there, and it's like,
I do like how it's turned against them.
And then how awesome of a moment is that for Rory, even though it's alternate world Rory.
Fantastic.
That. It's
the
activated,
silence says you're the one who dies all the time.
The one who dies constantly.
Dies and dies again. She won't come for you. Yes, she will.
And then she comes, and that was such. And then when they're walking down the hall, let's go get a drink sometime. And get married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the best is later when she says, "Well, apparently we're married, and that's our daughter," or something like that.
And his response
he's like, "What's going on?"
Okay.
We're married, and that's our daughter.
Yeah,
that's our daughter.
Married, that's our daughter.
Oh, okay.
And then at the end, when the whole daughter thing, it just really still blows your mind, and it's even more poignant when she goes, "My grandson," or not my grandson, my son-in-law.
He's my husband and my son-in-law.
And then hearing River say, "Daddy dear, I think Mommy needs another drink."
The reaction on Amy's face at that moment. Those are the things
that make this such a wonderful
There's
episode.
So many good.
Those are the fun
many moments.
And just.
And then the reveals in this episode too, that yes, it is in fact River that kills the doctor.
And I loved
the
conversation that she has when he comes into the room and she says, real life's it. There are so many rumors floating around you and me. Am I the woman that kills you or the woman that marries you, or and it's like, yeah, you nailed it, because that's what we've all been.
It's yes,
and it's all
the answer is yes, yeah. Now to the big
that was
question.
Even telegraphed this season with the doctor's wife, because even though that doesn't turn out to be, what it really is,
she's not even in the episode.
River turns out to be the doctor's wife later. Yeah.
Well, and another episode title that doesn't quite reflect what's going on. The Wedding of River Song. Well yeah, it's in there, but
no, absolutely.
And
I wondered when they were going to get to it, because we're 2/3 of the way through the episode, and I'm like, this is called The Wedding of River Song, right?
And they can't touch.
Yeah. Well, what a great... I mean, that was really a neat way for the doctor to guarantee... First of all, placate the fact that she loves him absolutely. Okay, you love me absolutely. I'm ready to marry you. And then the second part
I get
is
the impression that the doctor
they're going to have to kiss.
That way.
They're going to have to kiss.
Yeah.
To seal the deal there.
It almost seems like the doctor begrudgingly marries her. And I almost wish he truly did love her.
How
to
many
marry
of us
her.
got married just to shut her up? I mean, I don't know about you fellas, but I did it twice. I just won't make that mistake again.
I'm the only one at this table not divorced. So
Yeah.
Very true.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to pick on you. That was kind of mean there, but
There's Sean's bitter side.
yeah,
but funny as heck.
I'm not bitter. So what if she got half my stuff, including my William Shatner autographed picture?
If both of them took half of your stuff,
You would have nothing.
As Eddie Murphy once said, half. I love the fact that they use the bow tie
Yeah,
for the reunion cloth or whatever it's called.
It's a pagan ritual.
A
it's called
binding.
hand tying.
Yeah, a hand tying ritual. Yeah.
and earlier the doctors, why do you always have handcuffs?
Yeah, which
It's a nice reference to
harkens all the
Silence
way
of the-
back to Science and, Force of the Dead,
Force of
Yeah.
the Dead, yeah.
where she handcuffs him so that he can't stop her from doing. Yeah, that was why is it?
I think that I don't know because
Why
we're
is it
dealing
with you? It's always handcuffs.
We're dealing with two different doctors, so maybe that's the problem. River Song loves the doctor so much, she is willing to let the entire everything. She's willing to let time dissolve in order to not kill him.
This is still the young River, though. This is still the River that recently tried to kill him and then gave away her entire cycle of regenerations because
Yes.
she's still in the blue.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a young River. This is not the River we are familiar with.
So, and she mentions too the psychopathic nature of what
Right.
did you expect was going to happen.
Right.
But River loves him so much that she's willing to go to that length to keep him around. The Doctor doesn't get to have that moment on the reverse end, which
right.
is,
That's
it's,
why
it's,
I almost
it's very out of
feel-
balance because
But I like the fact that
I almost
he would have both times. He
Yeah.
would have. He definitely would have, and that's why it's brilliant that the cuffs. Now the other thing is he would have not knowing her too. That's the nice
Yeah.
thing is
The Doctor loves everyone that much.
Yeah, with 10 is he would have sacrificed himself for everybody, including River. Now you're right. He doesn't have that same at that point in
in their relationship,
relationship.
it's so I don't know unfair to River that she's not going to get that
well,
They toyed with that though earlier in the season when she recognizes that was the first time that he'd kissed her, but it was the last time that she was ever going to kiss him.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
To me, it feels that the Doctor doesn't feel the same way that River feels.
We also I want to talk about Stephen Moffat and his setup.
that goes. I'm sorry. That goes back to your
Yeah.
how it feels like the Doctor's just marrying her.
To fix time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a good point, Keith. I hadn't thought of that.
And why is the Tesselecta robot? If the Doctor did all this quote unquote real world, that he's in the Tesselecta robot, and
Because
then
when time unraveled,
why is he still in it?
because that's when time unraveled. He was in the Tesselecta when time
I guess,
unraveled.
okay, I guess
Well,
that
he
makes
also
sense.
explains to Churchill because or was it Churchill
Yeah,
that he's getting older. Oh no, it's who was it that he said
Amy.
to Amy? Yeah, why are you getting older and we're all still stuck in this point? And he said, well, because it's my timeline. I'm the reason why.
but the Tesselecta robot wouldn't age.
Well, if it's an exact copy down to, I wish I could remember that reference. If it's an exact copy down
If it's
to
the
something,
exact copy
then
and the
it's-
copy is inside the Tesselecta,
yeah.
mimicking whatever the
Not to mention
exact
the doctor-
copy is doing
the
inside
doctor
the
has to-
Tesselecta, it would
yeah.
age too.
So did River really marry the Doctor? She married a robot.
But the
That's a
Doctor
good
was
get
in
out of
control.
jail free card there.
The Doctor was in control of the robot.
Sean, at your next wedding, send a robot.
There won't be one. Although, well,
A wedding or a robot?
I love you, Lubot. I was gonna make a reference about River and the Doctor's robot, and I don't think I'm gonna go there now. I want to talk about Moffat, we've said it before, that he set all this up in plain sight, and we jumped at every shadow.
Yes,
we jumped through every hoop.
We assumed every misdirection.
We fell for it, and I'm going to blame M. Night Shyamalan for this. Surely it's his fault because we're all looking for the twist that wasn't there.
I think it's brilliant that he's given so many red herrings and been like, it's been there the whole time.
Yeah, they're not even
you
red
just
herrings.
didn't believe
Most
me.
of them were right.
Yeah. The fact that
Does anybody feel cheated? I mean,
Nope.
I say
Not at
this,
all.
and I mentioned this to you Keith, afterwards, that there's that term that we can't say on the podcast for what Moffat does to people this season, and I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel like
you
I'd
wanted to
been
use the phrase mind humped.
mind humped is what I'm replacing it with.
I don't know.
I didn't feel that after
No, I
this. I
didn't
was
either.
expecting to be.
Yeah, I was too.
I didn't go in expecting
Wasn't
it.
the same feeling I walked out of Impossible Astronaut, not Day of the Moon. Now,
That's what I was expecting.
yeah, let me harken back to something Chrissy said though. When I went on a tirade about how Steve Moffat has to wrap this up, that if he's just mindlessly writing this and doesn't really tie up loose ends, and she wrote back and she said, if we're and I was upset with the fact that I was guessing these things along the way and they were right, they ended up being right, and she said, hopefully, if he's laid this out since Science in the Library, that he does go
He's
through
sticking
with
to
what
his guns.
and he's sticking to his guns, and I really changed my impression based on what she said there, and he did. He fulfilled exactly what she said. What 10 episodes ago that we were talking
Yeah.
about,
Yeah.
and what I had so much of a problem with, and her putting that in perspective for me. Thank you, Chrissy, by the way, made this one even much more palatable for the fact that it didn't answer some of the little things that I felt like it needed to significantly fix. Like I wanted to know what happened in that gap between Silence in the Libraries, Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. I wanted to know what happened in there, and I thought we'd get a little bit of that flashback. It wasn't there, but it wasn't necessary based on how
Yeah.
we went with this
Well,
episode.
even-
So
even
I was
even
fine
the
with
gap
that as well.
between, there's so many single Doctor story opportunities with this season because even from Christmas Carol to Impossible Astronaut, there's been a gap.
You brought that up one other week. What? Go ahead.
I guess there technically is, but there.
Well, there is because
the
they're
200-year gap.
Well, yeah. Well,
The 200-year gap. There's
His
there
farewell
is.
tour.
Well, there
Anything.
is his farewell tour, but that starts based on the fact when the day he leaves Amy. That's the 900-year-old Doctor,
And then
comes back.
in Impossible Astronaut.
Yes.
Yes,
Well,
as-
and even at the point in here where he's the soothsayer, or
Yeah.
he's at least that 1100.
He's 1100
at that point. Yeah. So
So does
There's
going
just
off?
so many story opportunities.
I get
that
the
would love to
impression
see.
also that there's been some amount of time when he visits Craig because Amy
Well,
is already a model and she's
No. Oh yeah,
done a lot of things.
in Amy time. Yeah,
Yes.
I get
Yeah.
that impression too.
Is
not 200 years. but-
if we go strictly off Showtime, does that make Matt Smith's Doctor the longest lived of any of the incarnations?
I don't know because
As far
there's
as
a lot
I'm
of
aware.
fuzzy math in there because at one point Pertwee says he's 400 and some years old, but at one point then he also says that he's thousands of years old, and it's hard
The
to
Doctor
date the
lies.
Doctor. Yeah, it's hard to date the Doctor.
And if we also
According to River, it's hard to date the Doctor in that way too.
if you can count Big Finish audios too, there's Paul McGann has a
McGann.
600 year
Yeah.
imprisonment at one point, so it's tough to say. I loved how, and I'm torn on this. I loved it and I hated it.
You've got a lot of love-hate moments.
I do have a lot of love hate moments. I don't know, like I said, I love this episode. It was I was elated and happy, and it's a fun episode. And watching it both times, and I picked up on little dialogue triumphs that I missed out the first time around.
Yeah, I'm really excited to go back and watch this.
It's so much fun, and it works so well for what it does, and it works on so many different levels. I liked the fact that, for the most part, we have now wrapped up River's story arc. Mm-hmm. I think there are still adventures to be told.
There's options to do.
There's still, she's not done as a character. We can still bring her back at some point in time down the road, and I think he will. But I don't think we need to have her in the pilot, her in the mid-season, and her in the end in order to...
You don't want to see her as next year's companion?
I really don't think I do.
You know what would be
actually.
fun is to do a one-off with just her and the Doctor and skip. Have it in 4 parts. Have 15 minutes of it trying to resolve something here where we get Easter Island. and try to, do 15 minutes here where we have to resolve something and make it
Jim the Fish.
Jim the Fish. And make it go here and do it in 4 parts, but make all 4 of those parts be a necessary joining where there's one big overarching thing that they
that
have to
would be
complete
really cool.
together as well. Wouldn't that be fun?
That would be fun.
And anybody could write that. It wouldn't have to be Moffat because Moffat's already set it forth, and then you get little adventures of them
I
together.
did a little research. Nobody but Moffat has written a river story. Period.
Yeah. No, we know that.
We weren't sure on Time of the Angels.
Yeah. On Time of the Angels. And,
We weren't sure if that one was
Flesh
one
and
of his.
Stone.
Oh,
we
you
weren't
guys weren't sure of that.
Yeah.
No,
I
I've
looked
known
it up.
that. Yeah, because
Well, you're smarter than we are.
Well, no,
Glenn.
just when we were reviewing, we were talking about the Moffat episodes. and
Yeah,
those
I
being
know,
the
but
ones.
I'm old and I forget things.
Well, I had what's his name writing Fear Her, and it wasn't Mark Gatiss writing Fear Her. It was Idiot's Lantern. So.
I like how we've resolved that, and I have to agree with everybody now that I've kind of gotten a taste for it. I really wouldn't mind a companion less or a companion light season. We know that Amy Karen Gillian has signed for at least part of next season. Mm-hmm. And if they were to do it, let's say in blocks, where maybe Amy and Roy are there for 3 episodes, and then they're gone for 3 episodes, and then they come back for a couple, I'd be okay with that too, because I think it gives them the opportunity to do something different. But if it was just Matt Smith and whatever random, okay, you're my companion for this episode situation, I would be totally okay with that because of the sequences that we got.
Because Matt Smith is such a force to be reckoned with as the Doctor.
Let me segue
him as an actor.
Let me segue from that into the end. We need to talk about the end of this.
Yeah.
And what's been set up. I'm going to say first of all. Well, let's talk about the end. What do you think?
Should I read the prophecy?
The prophecy. Let's talk about the prophecy.
On the fields of Trenzalore at the fall of the 11th, when no living creature can speak falsely or fail to answer, my computers went in hibernation.
Wake it up.
My battery's low. It's not waking up.
You're going to be kidding me. We had this up the whole time. All right, well, paraphrase it then, Sean.
Epic fail, Keith.
That's hilarious. Oh, my computer went into hibernation. You should have read faster.
I'm sorry.
Can you read it from across the room?
Read it from across the room.
Now that you've plugged it back in.
From your power cord.
You read it and I'll repeat.
We'll echo you.
I'll be over here doing sign language for the hearing
Of course,
impaired.
it's plugged in now, and it's still taking an hour to
it's going to
boot up.
It's got to reload.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
At any rate,
Well,
at the
it
fall of
was-
the 11th, when no man
can speak falsely, a question that must never be answered will be,
a question that must never be asked
yeah,
will be answered. Or
I believe so.
boy, we're mutilating this now. The oldest question in the universe, the question hidden in plain sight.
Doctor Who.
That's not part of
Doctor
it.
Who.
That's the answer to it.
Doctor Who, yeah.
I think that's the question.
How well? No kidding, Sherlock. What do you mean you think that's the question?
Well, you said, no, that's the answer. So he's saying, I think that's the question. He's answering what you just said.
The answer is 42.
Exactly. That's my answer. The answer is 42.
answer is
Now let's
42.
find out what the question is.
Dr. 42. How genius is that? I'm asking, how genius is that?
I'm sorry. I wasn't sure. You said something about being an answer earlier, and I thought maybe that was an answer.
It is beyond genius. It's carrying.
No, it is.
It's carrying forth what Russell T Davies set up in that episode that we can't talk about yet.
On the fields of Trenzalore.
Oh, here he comes. On
In
the fields of
Trenzalore.
You repeat.
No, we'll do it together.
Okay, on the fields of Trenzalore.
At the fall of the 11th.
At the fall of the 11th.
No living creature can speak falsely or fail to answer.
When no living creature can speak falsely or fail to answer. You've got to do this like a preacher.
because,
You've got to give it to us in smaller chunks.
I couldn't remember my wedding vows. They had to do them in like two block answers every time. All right, go. Yeah.
Smaller chunks, Keith.
Question will be answered.
A question will be answered. Asked.
A question will be asked.
A question that must never,
A question that must never
ever be answered.
ever be answered. That part we probably could have got.
The first
Don't Shatner it, just shorten it.
The question.
The question.
First question.
The first
First
question.
The The oldest question in the universe.
The oldest question in the universe.
That must never be answered.
That must never be answered.
Hidden in plain sight.
Hidden
in plain sight. Okay, thank you. So,
And then, of course, silence will fall when the
question is asked. This goes back to that you and I have talked off air that he hasn't got to that episode yet, but the genius of incorporating that little nugget into and for all of you listening in the home going, what the hell are you talking about?
Well,
we'll get there.
It goes back to Sounds of Drums. That's another good example that you...
Yes.
Yeah. How Sound of Drums incorporated the drum theme.
The drum beat.
You that was your first
from
one.
The theme.
From the theme. That Russell T. Davies, I mean, we've heard this.
That doesn't spoil anything because we've been
Yeah,
there.
From day one, we've heard that.
Well,
and now all of a sudden to find out that sweet.
That's from looking in the Untempered Schism.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, just that he's worked
then
that into the show now. This thing that
the
we've
fact
heard
that
from
the
all
open,
along.
And it
the
happens
vortex in the
again
open
is
is
what he's
actually
saying.
the
There's another
vortex when he travels.
Yes,
Yes.
that was the other thing is that we've established that that's what the TARDIS looks like when it's flying. Okay, yeah, bring it on. You're incorporating all this stuff from the opening titles into the show. How cool is that? Moffat went one step further.
He's incorporating the title of the show.
The title of the show. I mean,
Which and that's I think it's very fitting considering the anniversary that's coming up.
Yeah, no, I think that's what this is a big
build-up.
setup for the anniversary.
well, and that's the one part that I feel okay and yet let down with.
That's the question.
No, not that's genius. What I feel like we got just. I feel like Matt Smith's season 2, series 6, whatever you want to call it. That this has been River's story from start to finish. Let's
really
find
has.
out about River's song. We're going to give you these answers, and for the most part, we've gotten everything that we need to know about River now, and we answered the questions for the second season of Matt Smith. We didn't go back and answer all the questions from season 1 yet. I still want to know, why did the TARDIS explode? Why does that tie into this? And I think there's more to tell, especially now. Obviously, I mean, there's obviously more that he's layered this extra bit on. It didn't feel like a tack on. It felt like
A layer.
just another layer for this other thing. Personally, what I feel is that this isn't going to be necessarily a season 3 arc.
I don't think so either.
In fact, I'd be ecstatic if we didn't get an arc. I'd be thrilled if we went back to episodic.
You're going right into what I was going. That's why I'm glad you're going there, because I was sitting there. I was about to ask you guys, can we just get back to doing Doctor Who episodes and maybe a small thread like we did in series 1, series 2? But I'm really getting tired of the episodic television, or not episodic,
serial.
Serial television feel that Doctor Who's. I mean, it has gone that direction because TV's gone that direction, because drama has gone that direction, because everybody feels that's how it has to be done. But I agree. I'd like to go.
I even mentioned that.
I'd like
and
to see season 7 be, or series 7 be just. Let's do an episode, and even if you do it, companionless, but bring in companion of the week and just do it that way. I'm so looking forward to that.
After my second viewing of the episode, I turned to Sean and said, what if they just drop the question? Don't bring it up until the anniversary.
Yeah, or don't bring it up until the end of the season, and then make the finale be the answer to all of that.
Yeah.
Because, quite frankly, as he was laying that out, I thought it felt tacked on. Now, I think it's something that he's probably had percolating for a long time, but where it was placed, it felt like hey, and by the way, viewer, here, we're dropping hints for what we're going to do next season. I didn't like that. And I think with
all of it, we've been given. I think Dorian gave us again. He gave us part of it. Silence will fall when the question is asked, and we finally find out at this point.
Which we've heard that for a long time.
We've heard that.
Well, and we know why the silence has orchestrated the events of this season. Because they don't want that question to be asked, or they will fall. So,
well, see, that's just it. Season 1 was silence will fall. Season 2 is silence will fall when the question is asked.
I wonder if there's going to be
series 3, and I'm saying series. I'm obviously condensing this down to Matt Smith. The third Matt Smith series is on the fields of blah blah blah
Friends
blah.
Allure.
The fall of the 11. Here's this, but I don't necessarily even think this is going to be the season series 7 finale.
It's going to be the end of Matt Smith's
That's
run.
my hint. Is
I
the
hope
fall of the 11th. Is it the 11th or the 11th?
11th.
The fall of the 11th, I think, is the end of Matt Smith's tenure as the Doctor.
I would agree, and I think
that's when we're going to find out what this is.
I think that's next series. I think Matt's done after
hope
this.
I don't think so. Because
I hope not too, but I think he's done.
Matt Smith has we know he signed for one more season, which would be a Series 7. Technically, if BBC ran these when they were supposed to, Series 7 would be 2012. The anniversary is not till 2013. I guarantee you Matt Smith's not going anywhere until after the 50th anniversary.
Well,
but I think...
But it sounds like they're not going to air these like they should.
Well, that's just it.
But that's just it. That's why I don't think he'll leave initially.
I think our anniversary season starts in the fall of 2012.
And picks back
up in the beginning of 2013. And then I foresee that being the next season for Matt Smith. Not ending with that one, but holding him on long enough to do a big special around the actual anniversary in November. And that's where they let him go at that point. And maybe that big finale ends up with him the 11th, when the
fall
11th
of the 11th.
The fall of the 11th.
Because
I think that phrase sets up an epic end for Matt Smith.
Yeah.
And what better time? I mean, not that I want to see Matt go, but what better time to exit this series than on a grand, big
as an actor
50th anniversary special, and what for the BBC to introduce their new Doctor. What better timing to do it on the anniversary of the 50th anniversary of this show?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
What better time for them to do both of these aspects? I think it's a calculated move, and I think that's why Matt Smith hasn't been afraid to say so early that I've signed on for this third season, and like I say, I think that this is his last season proper. That I think he'll be around for a special or a number of specials between that series and
I think they're going to follow the David Tennant model. I think we're going to get 3 seasons and some bonus.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
I hope not, because I
love Matt Smith.
Yeah, I do too.
And I'm completely okay. I love serialized TV. I absolutely love it. Obviously, Lost is my favorite show. But
I love it when it's good.
The idea...
that
too. I consider Lost good still, but that's another conversation.
Twist that knife
Lost,
as far
Lost
as I
was,
can.
Lost was fantastic, except for the last episode. The last episode sucked.
Well, that's another conversation for another time. I would be okay with them dropping the question, because I don't see there being enough information or enough storytelling.
I don't think they'd drop it, but just hold on, table it.
That's what I mean.
I
Table
hope.
it.
It's not dropping it, but it's
and going to the serial.
Dropping it implies that we're going to pretend that we didn't ask it.
Oh, no,
we're going to go for a long time and then go. Yeah, we're not really going to go anywhere.
I suppose the other
put it on the back burner.
The other option is we return to a season 5-ish where the crack shows up every episode. That maybe
there could be and
there's something that ties into it. Which again, I almost don't want to see that either. I'd almost rather.
Well, that's very series 1.
Bad Wolf
showing up everywhere.
Right, but that was so much more subtle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would agree.
I mean, the crack is visual.
I wouldn't mind going back to series 1.
Bad Wolf was visual too. A lot of the times, it was words you saw somewhere.
Right,
you only saw it twice. You only saw the words twice.
I thought you. Oh, so we heard reference to it.
Yeah, we heard reference in dialogue.
Okay. But the difference between series 1 and the crack is we're introduced to the crack initially, as opposed to being introduced to Bad Wolf at the end.
Wasn't Unquiet Dead Moffat story?
Think so.
I don't think so.
I think the only ones he wrote for season 1 mine's out on loan.
The Empty Child and Dr.
I think that was the only one he did for season 1.
That was the first
I don't know
Moffat story we did.
That popped into my head, but anyway, go
ahead. Where
were
you going to go with that?
I don't know. It just popped in my head.
Well, he talking about cracks and the rift, very similar to a crack.
Oh yeah.
No, I just the Bad Wolf references, whether they were done in dialogue or visual, they were still subtle. It wasn't something you caught on to until they started. You started probably about episode 6 or 7. You started going, didn't we hear this somewhere before? And you started looking for it at that point.
Or when the doctor cues into.
Or when the doctor cues into it, and they give us the bam, bam, bam. Here's all these pictures. The crack, however, is this giant glowing crack on the screen.
Yeah,
you can't miss that. And
there
when
were
they
a
go
couple.
Back to it again.
There were a couple in series 5 that I didn't catch until second viewing. There was one in the doctor's monitor that I didn't catch. I was obviously looking at something else on the screen when we really ended on that. Honestly, there were a couple I didn't see.
I thought they were a little too obvious, but yeah.
for the story he was telling, no.
Yeah.
But
Well,
if you're doing let's do like season 1 Bad Wolf,
Right,
yeah, it was.
right.
So I would prefer something very, very subtle that we don't cue into until later. But we will talk more about this when we go back and review the Moffat years.
Yeah, we're going to recap.
Or even
series
not
5
even
and 6.
not even touch on the question all of Series 7. Wait for that special, and that's
Well, that's
the
what
big-
I'm saying.
Yeah,
Because I'd like to see. Yeah, so we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Not episodic. Yeah, episodic.
Episodic.
Boom. Monster of the week. Whatever you want to
Procedural.
call them. Procedural.
What'd you think of the Doctor going back to his roots and being? I'm going to retreat into the shadows and be
I
a little
like
more
it.
low key.
I like that.
As
Well, I think
Phil
I think
said,
that
it's a
would-
very Doctor or Dark Knight
Yeah.
Yeah.
aspect to it.
I like the idea
That he's gotten too big
that
for his
they've-
britches.
Well, I like the idea that they've set that up for maybe that's what we're going to do next season. Maybe we're going to go low key. Maybe we're going to go back to the old formula where we're just popping around here and there and having a few adventures
and helping out where we can.
helping out.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love, and this is something that you can lay squarely on the doorstep of Russell T Davies, is taking him even from episode 1 and giving those. There's a website. Have you seen this man? And building it up and building it up and building it up to the point where the TARDIS shows up in stained glass windows, and the TARDIS is people are recognizing it. It makes sense that. Somebody monkeying around with our history as much as it would, that he would eventually wind up writing himself into it.
Especially as
totally buy
often
into
as
that.
the Doctor visits
Yeah.
Earth.
I enjoy the fact that the Doctor's got a reputation and he's made a name for himself, and that he can turn an army around at the mention of his name in both Pandorica and Good Man Goes to War.
That's because we want our heroes to be grand and powerful.
That's just
That's true.
But I also totally agree. He has gotten too big.
Mm-hmm.
It
He's
has
gotten
gotten to
the
the point
ego.
where he's got the ego to match, and it's so grandiose now, especially in some of the Russell T Davies finales or Christmas specials or whatnot, that it's so over the top. Look at me, I'm the Doctor, I'm generally pretty wonderful. That it starts to kind of eat away at the underlying foundation of who he was. So I don't know that I can call it a reset, but I like the attempt to we've gone. I mean, he's had paparazzi chasing him, he's had bounty hunters chasing him, he's had an entire fleet of bad guys team up to try and defeat him. I think,
of his adversaries teaming up to defeat him.
I think
How
it's
can
time
we
that we turn that ship just a little bit and say, okay, it's time for me to step back.
step back and hide out?
Well, as much as I love this episode, and I think we could talk all night on it, I think we kind of need to wrap this up.
Okay, be a killjoy.
Final thoughts?
Loved it.
Excellent.
With problems.
Yeah, fantastic. But yeah, problems, but not,
Nitpicking when you think about it, but after you watch it, it's
such
wow.
such a wow and fun episode that I can overlook a lot of the.
Oh, yeah.
problems
Oh,
that
yeah.
I have with it.
Yeah, no,
Well, and some of the problems could be, if he doesn't return to a more procedural, could be addressed later,
Yeah.
which would fix.
I feel bad, and I will discuss this more when we do get to the recap portion of the entire series. But I feel like there's a lot of people chomping at the bit, waiting to tear down Moffat over this episode and the way he's handling the show running. And I
think
certainly
there's a lot of people chomping at the bit because they see how awesome he is, and they just want to attack. They want to be negative.
Well, there are those fans that Moldwich called out about negative, compulsive, that they not happy unless they have something to
Yeah,
complain
but they've
about.
been around since Russell T Davies. So.
Yeah, they have. Well, I mean,
They've been around since earlier too.
I've read reviews
Well,
of this episode
yeah.
where people
JNT.
are wanting a
Yeah.
return of Russell T Davies. They're so unhappy, and I'm hoping. Well, we'll get more into this when we get there. I'm hoping that this is just a vocal minority.
I'm sure.
usually
It's always
is.
they happen to be the loudest. They're not the largest. They're just the
And
loudest.
I'll throw out a challenge to any of them that listen to our show, and they probably don't because we all love Moffat so much. But if any of you are listening to this show and you completely disagree with us, first of all, write in and tell us because
Yeah.
we're not going to.
I want to know your point of
We
view.
want to know your point of view, and we're not going to abandon any feedback just because it disagrees with us. On the
We-
contrary,
we
we love
love
that kind of stuff too,
to hear contrary thoughts to our own.
especially if it makes me
might-
rethink something.
Exactly.
But I'm also going to challenge you to, if you're going to put this much time and energy about complaining about something, go save Doctor Who Confidential.
I compare the people complaining about this stuff to the people saying George Lucas ruined my childhood.
Yeah,
He didn't ruin your childhood. Your childhood is still there, regardless of what you think of
It's just not on
prequels.
DVD. You have to go buy a
It is on
Laserdisc
DVD.
copy.
It is on DVD.
It's not on Blu-ray.
It's not on Blu-ray, but it's on DVD.
What's coming up next?
Next week, now that we've seen with Keith the final episode to date of Doctor Who that's ever been made, we're going to go back to the first episode. So for Friday night, Who join us midnight Central Daylight Time, although not for, I guess we got till November. We're still daylight, aren't we?
I think we're
William Hartnell and Unearthly Child. We're going to watch episode 1. Well, we're going to watch all 4 of them, but we're going to watch story arc 1.
We're not going to watch all 4. Oh,
Unearthly Child is 4.
We're watching the
We're
first
watching all
story.
4. We're watching
All
the
4
first story. And then...
We're getting better about saying story, episode.
or Serial, which Phil had, not Dr. Phil, but other Phil had questions for me about who was the longest running companion. And I'm saying, okay, do you want to know by episode, by serial, or consecutive series? Because they're all different numbers depending on who you want to go with.
It's true.
We haven't thoroughly decided what we're going to do next week. We might wind up reviewing the beginning box set since we just watched Unearthly Child, or we might go ahead and launch into our Moffat Years review covering season 5 and 6 to date, depending on what you guys think you want to do. I'll leave that open for interpretation. And then join us.
I thought we already agreed.
Or leave it open to surprise to the listener now. Because now they're on pins and needles going, which are we doing?
Surprise.
Just watch the beginning box set just in case.
And then we all, I mean, you're going to have to watch it eventually. It may be homework for this week. It may not.
Well, all that's left after The Unearthly Child is, what, the 2-part Edge of Destruction?
Right, and we'll cover the box set and
cover
possibly
the box
Marco
set.
Polo, because what's left of Marco Polo is on here as well. There's only, I think, 1 episode that's complete.
But there's a 30-minute synopsis that covers the entire story.
Yeah.
So.
And then
That
obviously...
will probably be the most fast-paced Hartnell story ever.
Hey, I listened to that thing on DVD or on CD with the bridging narration,
Oh,
and
wow.
I loved it. It was fantastic.
Really?
It's a wonderful story.
I
wish the thing survived because it's really, really, really good. And if you ever can get a hold of the BBC Radio recons, they release those and they're to put on radio, and they're essentially missing episodes, and it's the audio track from the show, but there's a guy explaining the things that are going on between. It really reminds me of the visual impaired read-alongs when you watch a movie. Sometimes you can turn on a dialogue track where they'll explain what's going on for those that are the visually impaired. So,
Family Guy moment, sorry. Brian explaining the Blair Watch process. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. She's in the basement scared. Credits rolled. Audience looks pissed. So at any rate, then 3 consecutive nights after that, we go back to Tom Baker era for some gothic horror tales. We'll do Brain of Morbius and The Seeds of Doom and The Horror of Fang Rock. So, which will bring us right up to Halloween.
Honestly, I'm really looking forward to Horror of Fang Rock as much as I've heard you guys talk about it.
It's
the one I'm looking forward to
another
the
one of my
most.
childhood favorites, and we'll get to watch it, and you'll go, that episode sucked. And it's like, yeah, it was better as a kid.
I like it. I like it.
I do
I
too.
like it,
I've
so,
seen it recently.
It
and I still
sounds
like
very Agatha Christie, and I appreciated.
No,
I really,
not really.
It's got a 10 Little Indians feel to it. But,
That's and I love.
but so does 90% of Doctor Who
Yeah, I was
episodes.
gonna say,
Here's your
yeah.
cast of characters introduced in episode 1. Who's the first to die?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
So anyway,
There's no mystery as to who's killing them, though. That's the problem.
Oh
But-
well,
this
there
one
sort
there
of
is.
Yeah, there is a little bit for a while.
the horrible lamp monster. Wrap it up for us, Glenn.
That's that's what we've got coming up, and that's going to do it for us this week.
as
Anybody
always,
else?
keep an eye on the website for the latest
That's right.
information.
And if you want to feed us. If you want to feed us,
If you
send
wanna
your-
feed us,
send
send
your
us
food
money
to
or-
Anything but Marmite. Are you
P.O.
listening, Mark?
Box.
No Marmite.
If you want to send us feedback, both positive or negative, you can send it to Traveling the Vortex, feedback at travelingthevortex.com. We've got a Facebook page, Twitter. You can find all those on our regular website, which is
Along with our Google
traveling-
voicemail number, which I don't have offhand.
Travelingthevortex.com. You can get all that information there, so be sure to visit the site.
And look for our #1 fan T-shirts coming soon.
Yeah. Sean does some fantastic blogs on there from time to time, although he hasn't done one in a while. And Moldwitch
he's
does
done-
some fantastic blogs on there.
While
from
he
time
was
to
on
time.
vacation.
Posts on it. Oh, he did.
He was very active
Last
on our
one that I
website.
popped on there and saw was the Friday Night Who, so I didn't maybe...
I
didn't go
posted
far
that
enough.
one.
I
And
didn't
he
do it.
posted that one because I didn't do it. In fact,
Is there another Loose Threads? Maybe I saw
there's
that.
not-
There was
There was
another
another
Loose
Loose
Threads.
Threads.
There was his favorite sci-fi.
So there you go.
I did that, and then I also just earlier this week posted my review of Cowboys and Aliens, Mr. Blah
All right.
blah blah.
Well, now I need
So-
to catch up, I guess.
That's what happens when you're on holiday.
That's right.
Can't be bothered to check the website while you're on vacation in Albuquerque with the family.
Hey, you were lucky to get Facebook posts from me. I was in no man's land as far as internet goes.
It must have been killing you.
Yeah, it sort of was. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. Until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everyone.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.